EWBSX, the cyberbully. The Lord is watching.
Fucking thing a guy can do is make a little noise. Okay, let out a little.
Hold on, clear it up.
The Warthog. I love him.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
What's going on, everyone? The Lave is back. I have returned. And I said it earlier in the chat, I am like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs right now with the new setup that I've got going on here. I spent probably 15 hours working on this yesterday and then another 6 hours today, I think, something like that. So I probably easily put 20 hours into trying to get this set up. It hasn't all been that. I've been, spending some time with family and, done a few other things, worked on a few other things as well, did a little bit of sleeping. But I have spent an extraordinary amount of time trying to get this to work because apparently I hate myself. No, actually, it's that streaming is still very much in its infancy, and there are a lot of tools that you think you would just have kind of naturally. It would just be easy to, oh, here, I could do this thing. It's 2026. But no, it is not. The whole streaming thing is still very much in its infancy, and a lot of the tools are being developed, but in some cases, you just have to stitch together some sort of a custom solution, and that is what I did. So there's the picture should look a little different to you now. I'm still probably going to be trying to tweak it and get it a little bit better. I've noticed a few mistakes on it already, but I am now streaming in widescreen, ultra wide, which will enable me, I think, to get larger, to be able to maintain the chat on the screen, because the chat on the screen is honestly how I watch most of the time. So keeping the chat on the screen, but able to share the screen larger, so that when we do things like watch SCOTUS, there's more SCOTUS on the screen. That was the goal, and I was like, well, I've got an ultra wide 4K screen here. Why not see if I can make this work? But in order to, you guys will notice if you throw it up into like the floating view, you'll notice how it's widescreen. So it's automatically putting little black bars at the top and the bottom. But I had to troubleshoot, trial and error a bunch of stuff to actually get it to work without just smushing me. But I can do that now, which is cool. And then I also am now officially streaming on Rumble. So if you are a Rumble preferrer for whatever reason, and you've been very loyally sticking to Kick, or you've been watching on X, then it is now live. The King Pill channel is now live on Rumble. I'm trying to figure all the details of it out, and it doesn't have as much of a straightforward setup process. It's a little more technical. So I'm getting that. I just got to give a huge shout out to the Clankers, man. Anybody who talks about these as like useful, meaningless tools is completely and utterly out of their minds. There are certain things that they're very, very bad at. There are other things that they're very, what would you say? They have negative effects. They're very good at them, but like they're very good at confidently telling you something that isn't true. One slight downside that I did see is that when I what was I saying? I was just observing that there's the X chats are actually coming through now. If that was one thing I thought I had to fix, was the X chats and the Rumble chats. I had to try to get them integrated in to come through here and then get them uniform and everything. So I've got a special tool for that that's plugged in. I have a plugin for OBS for that. What the thing that Grok is very, very good at in particular. I don't use ChatGPT. I'm not. I am loyal. I am loyal to Grok. But it would tell me like, oh, here's the perfect solution for you. It works exactly like this, and it would very accurately deliver me exactly what the solution is. But then there would be some clear, glaring reason as to why it wouldn't work. So I would be a little ways down that path of setting things up and creating accounts and logging in and saving passwords and all of that. And then I would run into this thing and I'm like, wait a second, this isn't working at all. And I'd go back to Grok and I'd be like, hey, I'm running into this problem. And and Grok would go, oh yeah, that's a very common, well-documented problem that people with your particular setup have, which makes that option not available at all. I'm like, come on. So there was definitely time that was wasted on that, but on net, I got way more done than I ever could have dreamed. I've another big thing here. A number of people have asked about Apple Pay, and I've also been trying to get all of the different payment methods. So I want to be able to generate custom a consistent alert system, not have different alerts from all different things, and not be able to do and have to manually update some of these. So what I discovered is that I've had a Buy Me a Coffee account for a while, but it does not have this particular functionality that Ko-fi has. Now, I have not used Ko-fi because the name pisses me off. Like, it's technically supposed to be coffee, I think, but it's CO-FI, and they've got a fucking hyphen in their URL. This is completely unacceptable. How do you have a hyphen in your double L? No. How do you have a hyphen in your URL? That's just not acceptable. However, what I've done is I've created a Ko-fi account, and I was able to I learned what parsing JSON scripts is. I was able to set up a workflow automation using Well, first I set one up using the native chat. The program's called Pipedream, and it has a native chat bot that assists you like a co-pilot sort of thing. And I use that, but then I ran out of credits, and it was gonna cost me. It was gonna be like $50 a month or something for credits, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do it manually and just have Grok walk me through the steps on it. So what I've got now is if you guys go to tips.kingpill.com like usual, you should be directed to the Ko-fi page instead of Streamlabs. And with Ko-fi, you don't need to create an account. As far as I'm aware, you shouldn't need to create an account. Maybe it'll make you, and if he does, oh well, I can't get around that step. But through that one link, you will be able to use Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, credit card, debit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay, any of the above. And if you send a tip through one of those methods, I now have it linked through to automatically trigger the Streamlabs alert system so that I can maintain the customizability of the Streamlabs alert system so we didn't have to do away with the alpha male alerts. Speaking of, we do have some tips I want to catch up on here before they get away from me. And remember how I was saying on the last episode that I couldn't get through, I couldn't get be like able to replay the alerts or see when they come through or anything like that? Well, I solved that problem as well because I got a Streamlabs browser source docked on OBS that is perfect for this. I can go back like my entire history on Streamlabs, and I can replay them. I can read them. This is like inside baseball, like nerd streamer stuff that I'm sure most of you guys are like, whatever. The video is on my screen, so I'm watching and go talk about something more interesting. There we go!
You earn your freedom.
One of them worked! What was that? That was Screwed Up Nevsky with a gifted sub to Politically Catholic. Oh, okay. And one other thing I got to mention before I go read through these. Also, there is something more than an alpha male alert now. For those of you, there's been a few of you in the past, so I know that you exist, and I expect something like that may happen again at some point in the future. Baby Shark!
Did you notice? I widened my setup. It's stretched so wide, now.
Oh,
it's
no.
wider than ever. So big. Cavernous, really. I have an echo now.
I didn't figure out, I need to come up with a customized workflow to filter Justine out so that the Justine ones don't play. Life support unplugger has been mortified. Thank you, Baby Shark. It's working. But for those of you who want to ascend above alpha male alert status, there is yet another. Any tip over $200. If there happens to be a tip over $200 tonight, then I think it's going to work. If all of these other ones are working, then I think this is going to work, and I'm going to be pissed as hell if it doesn't. But if one of those comes through, you guys will get an additional little surprise. Now, let me go through these ones I've got backlogged right now. My ultra-wide thing here is backlogged. Oh, no! Oh, no, did I mess up? Will it work?
The white man is back,
Oh,
baby!
good! Woo.
The white
Andrew
man is
Starr!
back.
Sorry I haven't been around on the live. I always watch the replay and sorry I couldn't do more, brother. God bless. I've been trying to grow closer to God when off work and stay off my phone. Merry Christmas, brother, and all the best to your family.
Thank you, man.
The
I
white
appreciate
man
you.
is back, baby!
Uh-oh.
The white man is back.
I played it twice.
Sorry I haven't been around on the live. I always watch the replay and sorry I couldn't do more, brother.
Nope.
God bless.
Okay, I can mute it. There we go. Thank you, man. You're very, very generous. I appreciate you. Thank you for the generous tip, $50, and good for you. Good for you. Getting your head right. There's kind of a funny thing that I'm almost like, I almost feel like my mission is successful if I get people to ultimately just, by and large, just kind of check out. Like if I get the audience to sort of move on into other things, then it's like mission accomplished. So I'm kind of working against myself here. I got to try to get a bigger, the bigger audience, but I've also I'm kind of intentionally almost trying to push people beyond it. So good for you, man. Good for you. I'm very glad to hear, and it's good to hear from you. Then there was 2 from one tipper here. 100 tipped $10 and said nothing. And then 100 also tipped. Wait a second. I don't know if it's going to automatically... Okay, it went away.
Welcome to the Gulag. If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Gifted sub for Bobby Ballbags. Thank you, by year 1. Now I got to see if it's going to... This alert system seems to work a little bit differently. There it is! Alpha Male alert!
Here comes the money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Transitioning libertarian.
Many such cases. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. Oh, that's the other thing. I've got new soundboard things here as well. How about one of these?
You want to kill the Jews?
Every single time.
Why are you so fucking negative all the time?
There you go. 3 new ones in a row. Thank you, man, for the Alpha Male alert. And then, let's see. We also got... David bought a t-shirt. Oh, that's right. I've got the t-shirts on there. See, I just put them up there with just the default setting. This is another thing I'm trying to get into eventually, is getting into the merch. So you guys are getting the early ones. I think it's a black shirt. You can get a hoodie, you can get a t-shirt, and it's got the King Pilled logo on it. There'll be more to come, but thank you, man. Thank you for buying a shirt. It's Damn It Jeremy has resubscribed. Logan has resubscribed. Thank you to you guys. T-Con has resubscribed. Andrew has resubscribed. Tojin. Every time I see Tojin, I want to say Toe Jam. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Observant Slav has also resubscribed, as has Augustine. And then Pale Morning Dude has been a hero with the kicks sent. He sent a whole bunch of them. He also, speaking of, Skrudemnevsky has sent some. And then Pale Morning Dude also gifted a sub to SideQuest Kyle. And then these are all test notifications for all of my tests. Oh! Another one, Jeff Accordion with another kick. Man, this is okay. I'm trying to keep up now. What do we got here? Wait for it.
Here comes the money.
Alpha Male alert!
Go. Money talk.
Politically Catholic.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Merry Christmas, Ericksons.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well. It's funny. Amy showed me a video the other day, a little screen capture she took of something that your wife posted of her with your son and you in the background. And in the very, very background, you could hear my voice. You could hear the Astrolabe playing. So thank you very much, man. And okay, I think there was more. They would have played automatically. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. And if you guys have any issues at all with the with tipping that way, let me know. I'm happy to take on any issues and try to solve them. I'm a man of the people after all. Okay. So I think that is all that I've got going for now. I'm not really going to have, if you guys are sending chats in through X or through Rumble and they're not coming through, that's a problem I'm going to have to try to figure out how to solve. Aspiring Midwit, I see he chatted something earlier on Rumble. I can't figure out how to get the comments to integrate properly. So that's another thing I'll be working on. So for now, if it's not showing up on the screen, apologies. I'm not ignoring you. You'll just have to, if you really want to say something, you'll have to come over to Kick. Okay. First one. It is Turbo Fart Tuesday. So this is, I had a couple of you guys in mind when I saved this one. A10's in the wild on this amazing trip with one of my sons. We never expected anything like this to happen. This day won't be forgotten and was amazing. Little father-son activity. Imagine seeing one of these out in the wild.
Woo!
And then, on that same note, A10 Saved My Life, filmed by Gilbert Beltran. This is like a short film.
Fuck these motherfuckers. Hold on, stand by, hold on. Fuck motherfuckers. I know, I'm gonna keep their heads down so they don't move. This ain't going nowhere. Honestly, I think they need to come in closer. No. Good rounds, good rounds. Fuck you motherfuckers. Is that off? Fuck, I saw the...
Oh, that sounds so freaking cool.
Fuck. Good hit, Brett, good hit.
Oh!
Meters farther.
That is not a sound you want to be on the receiving end of.
Christ. Now we're fucking talking. Race the tunnel, push it further that way. Yeah. Jesus, fuck. Yeah, that's it, man. That's where they were.
Oh, imagine not being American. Just can't even fathom it. You know, sex is cool, but have you ever hit some a cappella with the lads at the afters?
Give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. I wanna
listen to him singing.
rock and roll and drift away. Give me the beat, boys, to free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
Zoomer Dylan says, imagine being some Muslim in the caves and hear this. And for a second, I thought you were talking about this video. Yeah, no kidding. Imagine being some Muslims in a cave and hearing this video. All right, little Christmas themed content here. We're still keeping it light. Oh boy! There it is, T-Con!
I want to be first. Let's pop this cherry. Oh boy. Merry Christmas, Madden family.
Thank you, T-Con! You barely got it in first! Duffhead!
We must secure Merry Christmas for our favorite streamer and for more Erickson children.
Thank you, Duffhead, you absolute patriot! Oh, thank you guys. A $250 tip and then a $500 tip. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you guys. Okay, I realized that the alert box was just a little too small, but could you read what it said? Was it visible to read? This came through so perfectly. It was Amy's idea. Amy said that you should do for like a 200 and up, you should do the Hava Nagila. And I was like, oh, that's yes, we're going to do that. And then I went and I looked for a video to use with it. And I looked on Twitter and the first thing that I found was a like conspiracy video about Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Palantir. I was like, oh yes, it's the Thiel bucks. So thank you to T-Con and Duffhead for popping my Teal Bucks cherry. I am finally on the payroll. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys this Mongolian version of Jingle Bells. Look at just as you're watching this, just imagine this is the Great Gigacon, Stephen Chung.
Jingle a bell, jingle all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Yo, jingle a bell, jingle all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Ho, jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Yo, jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Yo, jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Ho, jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian.
Look at my Gigacon American.
Jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Ho,
this is gonna be in your head forever now. When Eastwood saw the yurts here, he said he asked me if those were harvesters. I think something related to some kind of farming equipment. He always has, speaking of farming equipment,
The N-word.
He always has one thing on his mind. I love Mongolian Christmas. Yeah, T-Con Duckhead outdid you right after you.
Jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Yo, jingle a bell, all the way. Yo, what a fun it is to ride on a Mongolian open sleigh. Ho,
Eastwood asked me to take him on a sleigh. Merry Christmas! Sorry, guys. That's all we're going to do for the rest of the night. We are just going to sit here and listen to Mongolian throat singing. No, I'm just kidding. I would do that. We just had it happen again. If I'm not mistaken here, looking in the chat, I think that we had someone mention they don't have a sub, and the next person to gift one immediately gave it straight to him. Yep, Kingless Kingdom said, my subscription is expired. Pale Morning Dude gifted a sub to the community, and it went straight to Kingless Kingdom. Amazing things happening here. Amazing things. Shout out to Jeff Accordion in the chat. You guys want to make sure you tune in tomorrow. We are going to, I know, I'm not doing Wednesdays, but I missed yesterday, and I think I'm gonna stream tomorrow, and then maybe do something Thursday evening. Thursday evening, I'll probably go to the King Pill voice chat. But there will be a Labe tomorrow, and you'll want to tune in for that because Jeff Accordion has produced something glorious for us. So make sure you catch the Labe tomorrow for that. But yeah, Pale Morning Dude, gift of the sub, straight to Kingless Kingdom. Good to see that. T-Con says, you still got to name the next boy T-Con and not Duffhead. We'll name him T-Con Duffhead. How's that? T-Con Duffhead Erickson. We were talking about the grunge the other day, and I guess my devices were listening to me because this showed up on my timeline.
Excuse me?
The Gvinch had been caught
The
by his
Gvinch?
tiny Jew daughter.
Rabbi, what are you doing?
Oy vey.
The fake rabbi lied.
There's schmutz on this menorah, and it simply won't light. So I'm slapping it home.
The schmutz!
Giving it back tonight.
Rabbi, what's Hanukkah really about?
Presents, I suppose.
That's what I was afraid of. Rabbi,
What?
when you light the candles tomorrow, don't forget the Grinch. I know he's mean and hairy and smelly, but I think he's actually kind of
Should have sniffed himself.
sweet.
Wait for it.
Nice kid. Bad judge of character.
How the Grinch Stole Hanukkah. This is Zach Margs. It was part 6 tomorrow as of whenever this was made. But, yeah, I haven't gone and run this one down yet. I haven't had time. But I'm very curious to know who Zach Margs is and where he's producing such things. But here you go, 111,000 views. I'm sure this wasn't the only person who posted about this. This is modern art now. This is modern culture. This is the cutting edge of culture and creativity, is this sort of thing now. Speaking of modern art, we got to do one more. Just one more. You got to give this to me. Just one.
Me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the
A couple of you saw this last night.
me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the holly. Can't stop crying over me, mum died in the holly. Can't stop whining over me, mum died in the holly. Me mum died in the holly, that's the reason I'm never jolly. Me mum died in the holly, that's why my face is sloppy. Mom, stop whining about it, is a hot slog. I know I should log off, but I can't. They starved her and popped out a condom anyway. Years later, we make all the green, all bloody, nothing is clean. Stop talking or I will get all squeaky. Me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the holly. Me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the holly. Me mum died in the holly, me mum died in the
I'm going to tell my kids this is Opa Gangnam Style.
I've got bad news for you. You're Jewish.
Calling Ben Shapiro, but he's scared too. Tell me I'm cuckoo. And then
You wanna kill the Jews?
His face changed color as he found another. Damn, he was my only lover. I'm such a sucker. Me mom died in the holly. After being abandoned, I can only make love to my darling.
Faggot? Yeah, I just did. But would you? Faggot. Okay.
That's the doll's name. So I bring my A game, doing some face painting. My doll I'm dating, no other man is she entertaining. I love watching her change. She is my main thing. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Can't stop crying over me, mom died in the holly.
I'm gonna come.
Can't stop whining over me, mom died in the holly. I'm too old for the club, another doll I end up knocking up. They put what's left of my own in a cup. Thinking about it makes me come.
I'm gonna come.
Right before climax, I say, Mom, Mom, Mom. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Me mom died in the holly, me mom died in the holly. Can't stop crying over me, mom died in the holly. Can't stop whining over me, mom died in the holly.
Oh, son of a
Me
bitch.
mum died in the holly.
It's Don Henley, The Boys of Summer. Hang on a second, got to make sure that one winds up in the history, so I can go listen to that one later. Oh man, how can you possibly be black-pilled in this day and age? How can you possibly not just be loving every single minute of this? They do their little thing. It used to work. It used to work. People used to be like, oh, his mom died in the hallway. And then everyone would just back off and there'd be a big round of cancellation and everything. Now it just turns into TikTok trends. And everybody just runs wild with it. Just making a big, gigantic punchline of the whole thing. The post-war consensus is being humiliated to death. That's what's happening right now. The entire post-war consensus is being dragged out and having tomatoes thrown at it. And guys are driving past and coaling all over it. Just splattering mud all over its face. Knocking it down in the mud. Kicking it while it's down. Memeing the death of the Nuremberg regime. Yes, that's what we're doing. Well, we're not like bludgeoning it to death. We are driving it to self-extermination through abject humiliation. There is nothing to be... Yeah, like, there's a certain thing that is a problem. Yeah, and that problem is being dealt with. So keep dealing with the problem. Don't be bemoaning and crying just how bad it's going to be sometime soon in the future because the problem's not going to be dealt with. Yes, we understand the problem needs to be dealt with. So dedicate less time to catastrophizing about what will happen if it isn't dealt with and jump on in. The water is warm. Here's a nice wholesome American story for you. A 45-year-old widow called a North Carolina tree removal company begging for firewood to keep her house warm, but said that she couldn't pay them. Paul Britton, the owner, redeeming all Brittons, delivered the firewood for free, fixed her car, her roof, her heating and AC unit, all for free, and then raised $20,000 for her for Christmas.
This is Nana Abernathy. I was going to let you know that we're going to give you this load of wood for free. I ain't coming back for no money.
You ain't going...
I ain't going to charge you. I'm going to let you have it for free.
Thank you.
I know you said that you was having a rough time, and that's what we try to do. We try to help people out, and I wanted to bless you before Christmas, and we're not coming back for no money.
That's the nicest Christmas present I could get.
It's all for you. Can I get a hug?
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. I hope you have a great Christmas and a great holiday, and I hope the Lord blesses you.
Okay.
Okay? You have a good evening.
He just did.
He just did. That's right.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll get you took care of, and we'll get this dumped out right here for you.
Exactly what I was going to say, Pat.
You have a great... It's a beautiful load of wood right there.
Oh, I can smell that. I can smell that
small
video.
Too. That way she can handle it nice and be easy on her.
Yeah, he even cut them small. Man, white people doing white things. This is... I'll even narrow this down even further. This is Christian whites doing Christian white things. Beautiful, beautiful things happening in America. This is what else we're going to do. David Axelrod is very upset about it now being called the Trump Kennedy Center. And I know a lot of people really, they just want to, poo-poo this sort of thing. But Do you remember how it felt? Do you remember how it felt to you? How demoralizing and infuriating it was when they tore down the statues? Do you remember how that made you feel? That's what we're doing to our enemies right now. It is now the Trump Kennedy Center. Every time these bougie DC elites go to some sort of highfalutin black tie event, they're going to have to go to the Trump Kennedy Center, making them seethe, absolutely putting your stamp on it. After Kennedy Center, what next? Look at this. This is a perfect, on one side you have like the screaming soy jack, and on the other side you have the beaming Giga Chad. After Kennedy Center, what next? Yeah, we're going to do it in full color too, just like this. The rest of the guys can all stay just normal stone. But we're going to do like the pyramids did. We're going to have cladding on the outside. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to have colored cladding on the outside, coating it in solid gold so it stands out from the rest of them. This is exactly what's going to happen. Don't spend your time projecting into the universe. But what if the Democrats? But what if they get power again? What if bad people do bad things? Right now, good people are doing good things. Let's enjoy the hell out of that. Because enjoying people doing good things makes more good things happen. Yes, hail victory.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
I forgot to play this one, or I was going to play this when I was mentioning Eastwood. Yeah. No context for that one. You guys have as much context for that as I did when I got it. These were a series of videos that he recorded of himself just doing that. So this is what 5-year-old boys do. The speed of Trump and the Blitzkrieg explained. Now, I don't necessarily agree with every single thing here from Larry Schweikert, and he is just peak boomer. He is one of the good ones. He is a treasure. We must treasure Larry Schweikert for as long as we have him. But he makes some interesting observations here in this thread. He says, I see the usual takes are out on Stefanik and some of the other resignations. Almost all are wrong. So at least Stefanik, who has been a member of Congress in New York and was ostensibly running for governor of New York, has since withdrawn from both positions, which is interesting. I think she used to be the UN ambassador or she had some role along those lines, NATO ambassador, UN ambassador, something like that. So she's going to be withdrawing from both of those positions. So she's going to be replaced in the House, and she's also going to be she's not going to be running for governor. Presumably, maybe she knew she wasn't going to win. But I think this can be read a number of different ways, and for that reason, it's not really worth getting really wrapped up one direction or the other. I think this makes sense as a someone's got a manila envelope for her. This is a manila envelope quotient event. Shout out to Tom Luongo. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's she is loyal to Trump, but she's getting leveraged and compromised out so she can be replaced with someone else. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. I could see both of them being true, but I think it's one of those things that it doesn't, like the outcome isn't decided one way or the other, so getting really wrapped up on why it's happening doesn't do much for you. Here's what Larry Schweikert said. He said, here's what's happening. Trump has so radically changed Washington that these people actually have to work to keep up with him. They face a choice: keep up with him legislatively or be made irrelevant. Except they can't keep up with him. No one can. Trump has limitless energy, infinite agenda items to make America greater. Think about this. Remember all the whining and complaining during the big beautiful bill votes and how idiot Nancy Mace is trying to juggle her social media and pajama appearances with actual votes? I'm not even counting the fact that now they have to actually try to read legislation. That's one thing. If you become adept, if your administration becomes adept at fitting in these perfect little poison pills into legislation, and actually getting stuff through that suits your agenda, then even your enemies are going to have to start paying a lot closer attention to what's in these bills. Even they're kind of by default, they're having to be forced to do their jobs. They don't want to do their jobs. Again, if you hate Republicans in Congress, the best thing you can do to express that hate for them is to vote for them. It seems counterintuitive for about a second and a half until you think about it. They don't want to do their jobs. They want to be the outer party. They want to strategically lose as beautiful losers. So you don't let them. You force them to win. You force them into a supermajority. Now what sort of excuses are you going to come up with for why you can't do anything? Trump is, in terms of agenda, constantly months ahead of the rest of DC. While I do not think it is the entire reason, maybe not the most important reason, I do think this is part of the Bongino problem, that unlike previous part-time FBI peeps, they now are there 24/7. I don't necessarily know if I agree with him on Bongino, but I do think that whether it's a Bongino problem or just a whomever else problem, it is a real thing. Either they keep up or they become completely irrelevant, as both the House and the Senate, as I wrote 5 years ago, have mostly become. This is the other thing. You want the Congress to do as little as possible. If you demand from them that they do things often, if you say, we need a congressional solution for this and this and this and this and this and this, the effect of that is that you're undermining the potential for the political acquiescence to an executive solution. And the executive solution would be much better. So you want to force the Congress into the majority, and you want to force them to act on the things that cannot be solved executively. But otherwise, it's actually kind of a feature, not a bug, if they're just not doing anything. The best thing possible would be to have a guarantee that they're going to do nothing. They're not going to impeach. They're not going to vote something down. They're literally going to take a paycheck and go on vacation. That would be the best thing imaginable. Short of that, it's actually good if they're just basically irrelevant. So all of this, like, no, Congress has to do this, and it's like a huge failure that, like he says here, people keep wanting Congress to codify Trump's executive orders, but they can't even remotely move that fast. If lucky, they'll get 10%. I think they've probably already gotten about 10%. They've actually codified quite a few of his executive orders. But he's also had a lot of executive orders. And again, if you're thinking of this like, oh, well, the next president could just come in and issue his own executive orders. Yes, fucking obviously. So the solution is not try to next president proof it. The solution is to ensure who the next president is going to be. And everything else must stem from, and they got workflows on the brain. Everything else must run from that. The first and most important premise is ensure that the next president is the right guy. And then that governs everything downstream from it. This is not your BoomerCon limited government sort of the president is just one of three equal branches. No, we're all in on executive supremacy right now. We can hammer out those other details later on. If you're hung up on, Congress has to codify Trump's executive, you're doing this like neurotic insecurity, like libertarian thing. That's just like what if they get elected again, then they're going to put us in camps, and eradicate that thinking from your brain. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't do anything for anyone else. It's wholly unproductive and is born of nothing but doubt and fear and despair. All of which are throw them all out. Despair is a sin. I'm not going to say doubt and fear are sins. Despair is a sin. So but when they get power again, or but what if they have a different president and he or she or she has their own executive orders? Let me stop you right there. We're going to give you the little 1-2 across the face, snap out of it, go splash some water on your face, and get your freaking head in the game. Understand that they have never, under any president, been forced to work like this. They don't have time for their cocktail parties and social media and fact-finding boondoggles. Can you name one major fact-finding trip the GOP Congress critters have taken this year? I love it, Congress critters. This is utterly destroying the very reason many of them wanted these positions. I think it's worth keeping in mind that the problem of Congress is not going to be solved in the next election cycle. And if you have that mindset that like, oh, if there's any sort of step backward, or if there's any sort of, if we don't have a comprehensive and total victory and domination and 100% control of Congress within the next election cycle, then it's all over. Again, you're not the game. We are multiple election cycles from the point where Congress ceases to be a problem, either because it's been so taken over by good people or because it's just been neutered through repeated obstructionism and inefficacy and corruption and whatever else. Both of these are perfectly fine. They're both valid ways to get rid of Congress. You either get Congress perfectly in lockstep with the president, which is basically then like they're not there, or they're not there at all. Both of those work, and we're multiple election cycles away from that. So if you have as like a deal breaker, drop dead sort of notion that the Congress problem has to be solved in this election cycle or it's all over, then again, your head isn't in the game. You're off in la la land. You're listening to the wrong people. You should be listening to the Labe. Make sure you share the show, folks. Okay. It's not, as one Dweedle Twister claimed. Dweedle Twister. See, this is what I love about Larry Schweikert. You get things like Congress critters and Dweedle Twister. Just peak boomer insults. It's not, as one Dweedle Twister claimed, due to ideological purity tests. See, he could just say faggot, but, you know, it's not in the boomer mode of being to just say, it's not, as one faggot claimed, due to ideological purity tests. So they have to come up with things like Dweedle Twister, and we love them for it. No, the problem is you can have any position you want, but you better be intellectually and in terms of energy ready and able to defend it. That means that people like MTG or Bacon Boy, Don Bacon, need to have well thought out major positions on everything from crypto to nuke fusion. I think this has been an underappreciated effect of this administration. And it's part of the reason why the libs have just gone to just block everything no matter what it is. Even when it leads to them like trying to block, you know, like openly doubling down on positions like, no, we need to give billions of dollars in subsidies to insurance companies. They are just happy to own that position right now. And it's because their alternative is like, I need to understand detailed issues about crypto policy or immigration policy or energy policy, or there's literally nobody within the entire Democratic Party who's capable of contending on these sorts of issues the way that people in and around the Trump administration are. Yeah, there's lots of incompetent boobs in and around the Trump administration because the fucking federal government is gigantic with millions of people in and around it. So if you're going to go look for incompetent, corrupt boobs, you're going to find them. But you'll also find that virtually everybody of any sort of quality of character and competence in business or science or medicine or economic policy or finance or anything like that is all gravitating toward the administration. That's where the energy is at. So as this process begins to accentuate itself, it begins to accelerate, you're going to get a quick departure where one side, to the extent that it's everything sort of breaks down into these binaries, one side is going to have smart, intelligent, competent, driven, motivated, charismatic people associated with it, and the other side is going to have ugly, deformed freaks. Where is that one?
Get that ugly, disabled freak away from me. I don't want to look at his fucked up face.
That's going to be Americans to the Democrat Party as this process continues. Yeah, Mr. Stu, literally listen to nothing but the Labe and Tom Luongo. Exactly. See? Then there you go. You got your life hack. Slutty Milk says Tom Labe Luongo. Slutty Milk's in the chat. He did it again. So they need to have well thought out major positions on everything from crypto to nuke fusion. I'm here to tell you they don't. Not even close. DC is a culture that relies on staffers. But you can bet your bottom Bitcoin that the DC staffers aren't remotely capable of keeping up with Trump and his cabinet. Here's where our guys can really make up ground. To the extent that government processes are selecting, once again, for competence, those who are competent can start to run circles around those who aren't. Those who are fakers. Those who are just there to extract their pound of flesh, to get their little helping of pork, and looking really active while not actually doing anything. The more that we can get our guys proactively invested and engaged in the process, the more clear the gap between our guys and their its is going to become. We only need so many posters. We also need lobbyists and entrepreneurs and investors and staffers and consultants. And it is possible to post your way into some of these sorts of roles. But again, that's only going to be possible for certain numbers of people. The rest of you, there's got to be some way that you can get involved, even at the local level, especially at the local level. Yeah, Nevsky, Laba is on Rumble now. Right now there is me and one other person watching on Rumble, but I don't think that the chat is integrated properly. Here, let me test it real quick. Testicles? Does that come up? No, it does not. So I'm gonna have to try to solve that problem somehow. But I do have it up here. So anybody who's watching on Rumble, you can say howdy. The standard for being a politician will become that you have to be impressive and effective. Yeah, that's already starting to happen. What that means is that our enemies will eventually start becoming more and more impressive and effective. But there's a lag time here because they're having to try to catch up and they're now in a reactive position. So we need to capitalize and maximize our advantage. I will say that there is zero utility in trying to maximize your own footprint by dooming. It's the definition of grifting. It's literally just it's just optimizing for audience growth. And you might be able to rationalize it to yourself as, oh, well, it's because of once I get the audience, then I'm going to pivot and do, yeah, okay. You don't, no. You are literally starting with your own self-interest and your own neuroticism and trying to retrofit a justification for it. We need many, many things right now. There are a hell of a lot of things going on, and we need many good people working on these good things. And there is not a single justification for any time spent posting, catastrophizing, forecasting about just how bad it's going to be if your hypothetical comes to pass. Zero justification for it whatsoever. It's an entirely self-centered or self-interested activity. That time, that effort, that influence could be put toward doing something proactive. So there's an opportunity cost. That's the worst thing about the black pilling and the doom faggotry, is the opportunity cost. Because a lot of these doom fags are extremely intelligent, high energy, high agency even, ironically enough. They just direct their agency in the wrong direction. So not only are they giving us are we getting the direct consequences of the doom faggotry, we're also getting the the indirect consequences of it, which is the loss of the productive capacity that could have generated. Whether it's, there's literally an entirely, pick an industry. Pick an industry, pick a role, start plying your trade to that role in a productive way toward building and developing a civilization and furthering this political momentum. Literally, it's like, if you want me to give you a list, then you deserve to dig ditches. Because you should be able to find something in literally any industry that you have any sort of experience or expertise or connection to. Those who replace these people, the DC staffers who can't keep up with Trump and his cabinet, are going to have to be radically different in their attitudes and approach to government. You want more evidence of why I think this is the case? Trump has, like a cat with a laser light, focused almost all of DC on three things in the past few months: the ballroom expansion, his Reiner tweet, and the Trump Kennedy Center. These are the things that the libs are screeching about. Slutty Milk made this observation in the King Pill Discord earlier today, that the traditional media is actually almost becoming a better source of news than a lot of the alternative media, simply because they're bemoaning all of the things the administration is doing. So they will tell you directly all the things that, from their view, are really bad and terrible and awful, and it portends our great and ultimate doom and the collapse of the international rules-based order and the way everything has ever been done and all of our institutions. They'll tell you what the administration is doing. But the alt media is like running around sticking their dicks in trees and stuff. So we almost come full circle on the fake news media. So yeah, this is what everyone's been in a tizzy about. The ballroom expansion, his Reiner tweet, the Trump Kennedy Center. These things have had all Dema KKK crats, Dema KKK rats, and all rhinos in high dudgeon as they scream about class and taste. What are they not screaming about? Anyone? Bueller? Real issues, real policies. Why? Because they cannot keep up with Trump on real policies. The background research, the time it takes, is simply overwhelming the Demo KKK rat response machine. We love our boomer insults, don't we, folks? Oh, yeah. Imagine how good it must feel to him to type that out every single time. I wonder if his phone autocorrects for that now. If he types just Demo KKK RAT, I wonder if it just autocorrects there. Now I believe Trump really does think the ballroom needed to be bigger and better, and I really do think he tells you what's on his mind. Here we had all these people wanting honesty in politicians. When he tells you what he honestly thinks, people flip out. But either way, what you're seeing is a massive diversionary attack. Again, don't know if this is by design or if it's just who he is, but the fact is, these issues are absorbing all the airtime, news coverage, and so on that normally would go to real issues. And on real issues, Trump's team is hypersonic. Last 3 weeks, radical new strategic policy that is 180 degrees different than the post-war Bretton Woods NATO arrangement. Congress? What? Radical new rare earth minerals programs opening mine after mine. Meanwhile, Congress, wait, what are REMs? Is that related to sleep? HHS is at breakneck speed, undoing the entire transoid culture of the Fed government, while at the same time sharply reversing the vax policies. This is peak boomer posting, but if you can read through the boomer posting, he's exactly right. Trump and Muy Macho Marco are radically renegotiating the entire world, getting us, via peace deals or new unstated alliances, access to key energy and minerals, while at the same time cutting out the Chi-Coms. All my homies hate the Chi-Coms. In Latin America alone, Trump is close to a Chi-Com-free zone. Chi-Com is kind of a bit of a euphemism here, but there's some element of truth to it. Elections are coming up in Brazil. If Lula gets the boot and forces a Bolsonaro comeback, Latin America will be free, except for the couple of narco states. Without Congress, Trump is crushing those. Over 100 boats sunk with billions in product. And I don't think that the product is necessarily the reason that they're being sunk, but I do think that it's not nothing. Again, this all goes back to why many of these people are quitting. Trump negotiates personally and via truth. He doesn't need Congress to gum things up. By the time they figure out what he's doing, he's moved on. In less than a year, he has returned the U.S. to not only energy independent, but the largest LNG supplier in the world, meaning the U.S. will become the largest AI and data center in the world, and it won't be close. What did Congress have to do with any of this? These are just a handful of examples, but it should be obvious. Congress critters now are virtually irrelevant. Yet if they want to have a say in anything, they have to work their butts off like a real job. Or they can resign themselves to Trump doing it all. Ah, yeah, the Chikes. That's good life support unplugger. The Kaicoms. Oh, yeah. Screwed up Nevsky. You guys are... Oh, look at you guys. Yeah, T-Con. Shipyards are hiring again. Maine and Virginia. We'll get to the shipyards here in a moment. First of all, though, I think this is a good little breakdown here from Scott, a persuasion breakdown. His suggestion to Trump from the midterms is focus on future plans, not past wins, because he says every problem that Trump solves before the midterms is bad for Republicans. I also want to make sure I play this here because Scott's been in the hospital for a while. I don't know how many more of these we're going to get from him. I'm still curious what's going on with all of that. It's such an interesting thing. His whole in the hospital, out of the hospital, the connection with the insurance companies and the connections with Trump and all that. But anyways, I'm not accusing him of faking. He definitely has been looking rough. And I very much believe that he is experiencing some kind of health thing. But it's just very interesting. The timing and the way it's rolled out and the way it's proceeded and all of that. Anyways, here's a good breakdown from one of the greatest unks on the internet, our great uncle, Scott Adams. Night, Jeff Accordion.
According to Newsmax, gas prices dropped to the lowest December level since 2020. Now, I know Democrats argue, oh, that's cherry picking. And I saw Jessica Karloff make this point. It's a good point, that if you cherry pick a few states, it looks like gas prices are super low. But if you took the average, it wouldn't look as low. I get that. But still, you have to say that gas prices have gone down.
And like the fact that it is happening disproportionately in particular states actually causes you to question why that is. What is it about those particular states that is causing their gas prices to drop more quickly? If you start digging into that matter, then you uncover very interesting things. Here in South Central Texas, we're down in the low twos. I think the lowest that I've seen recently was something like 205. But we're down in the low twos. It's not going to be long before we drop below 2. I've seen a couple of people in more kind of rural areas who have posted recently that they've got down into like the 198, 194 sort of range. And I would not be surprised at all if by the second quarter maybe of 2026, I wouldn't be surprised if some areas of the country get down into the $1.50 range. I don't think it's going to be the average for the country, but I think that there's going to be some parts of the country that are going to get down into the $1.50 range.
No doubt that they've gone down. I'm going to make the following persuasion point. Now we can talk about some fun stuff. Every time Trump solves a problem before the midterms is bad for Republicans. Does that make sense? Every time Trump solves a big national problem, should he be ending a war? Should he be lowering gas prices? Should he be lowering pharmaceutical prices? These are all things he's likely to have accomplished before the midterms. Will that cause more people to vote for Republicans? No. And the reason it won't, persuasion-wise, the reason it won't is because people instantly bank those successes and they say, what do you got for me next? They're not going to vote for anybody because of something that somebody already did.
T-Con says, if I see $1.99, I'm doing huge burnouts in my Camaro next to the Tesla protesters down. Patriot! I think he's right here. I think this is true, that the record is good, and it's good to talk about the record, but voters are also, especially right now with the proliferation of doom porn, voters are very much in the what have you done for me lately, or not even what have you done for me lately, but what's the next thing that you're going to give me? What's the next thing you're going to bribe me with?
They just say, that's done. Yeah, I'm happy that gas prices are low. Yeah, I'm happy that that war ended. But I'm not going to vote for you for that because it's done. It's off the table. So Trump is in this weird situation where the more big problems he solves, the less likely Republicans can stay in power, because voters would be rational and they say, we're not voting for the past, we're voting for what you're going to do next. So Democrats will, of course, make a case that they would be better for the future. Republicans will try to do the same, but they'll spend a bunch of time talking about what they've already done, and that won't activate anybody. So
there's kind of an odd thing here where, to a certain degree, it's almost like you're pushing on an open door, because giving the Republicans an opportunity to run against something specific is like really blocking the agenda on something really crucial is political suicide to a certain degree. You don't want to be the person who, like your head comes up above all the rest, and you're the one who's responsible for blocking things, which I think is probably a contributing factor in why, especially recently, he's been able to get so much done in spite of the headlines being dominated with a whole bunch of other stuff that a lot of people are very angry about and they're yelling about, and the administration is maybe sort of tangentially affected or associated, but isn't really focused on, because they just really don't matter. I'm sorry, the Epstein list just really doesn't matter. All that Epstein stuff is a sideshow. It's fully into breaking slop, total distraction territory. And if you don't have the requisite brain cells to scrub together to understand that that's not pro-pedophilia, that's not saying that Epstein wasn't a bad guy, that's not saying defend the evil billionaires touching kids thing. It's saying that what you think that you're accomplishing with this isn't actually accomplishing what you're saying you're trying to accomplish. There's a big disparity here. Lots of people care about the Epstein list, and then people point to it and they say, well, look, lots of people care about it. And the people care about it because people keep telling them to care about it. That's literally the only reason. There's already been great Larry Summers and who's the other guy? The other British sort of like neocon sort. I can't remember the guy's name. Who have been forced to step down from their respective positions. These are major power brokers who have been forced to step down because of stuff that's come out with it. You might say I'm talking against myself here. I'm saying that you're not fighting for anything more. You're not, but by continuing to howl about this, you're not making it happen. It's just happening. And there's so much other stuff that's going on right now that is so much more impactful that's just not really catching most people's attention. Yeah, the mainstream media made Epstein famous. This great bill. Oh, hold on. I got to rant on this for a second. This fucking Epstein Files Transparency Act bill that Thomas Massie has been on a high horse about. Literally every single Democrat in Congress voted for it. Senate and House. One Congress member in either chamber voted against it. That was GOP Representative Clay Higgins. And his concern about it was innocent people having their identities revealed in a slanderous way, which is absolutely a valid thing to be concerned about. But literally every single Democrat voted for it. So if you think the Epstein Files Transparency Act is a vector toward hanging the power brokers of the Republican or Democrat parties, you're out of your mind. You're saying that every single member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, just voted for the thing that is going to be their total undoing. When it was advertised as the thing that will be their total undoing, and they voted for it, and then it just crushed them. Seriously? This is like Jerry Springer level politics. It was a retarded bill. If anything, I think that there's a good chance that the bill may have made things more difficult for the Epstein list to whatever degree the so-called Epstein list has utility as leverage, may have made it more difficult. That would be my assumption. That would be my just knee-jerk assumption based on the way that Congress works. That they voted for it all because they were actually enhancing the classification, the protection, they're creating more legal hoops to have to jump through to release stuff. I cannot believe the number of serious people I've seen who are engaging with this stuff the way they are. It is mind-blowing to me. And I remember when Jason Miranchuk said, the end of 2024, in 2025, you're going to find out that a lot of people who you thought were based are not. One of the greatest predictions I've ever seen someone make, along with the neo-trads and the Vengeful Son and the... Jason Miranchuk is a Chad. Jason Miranchad. Say a prayer for the man. He is going through his catechism now, and any of you who have been catechized, you know exactly what that period in your life is like. So say a prayer for our good buddy, Jason Miranchuk. Back to the other Unc. Uncle Scott. Unc Scott.
What would you do if you were advising Republicans on how to get out of that trap? That what you've already succeeded at will not motivate anybody to vote. It's only what they expect in the future. Here's my suggestion. And I'll probably talk about this a lot more in the future. You need, if you're Republicans, you need to show that you're going to solve whatever people think is their biggest problem. And I'm going to say cost of living. And I'm going to say grocery prices generally, even though we did a good job with eggs, right? Here's what you would do. You would admit that that's a big problem, step one. Don't say I already lowered egg prices. Don't say you did a good job on gas. And Trump is making that mistake. And that is a mistake. What he should say is, yeah, we haven't made a dent yet in grocery prices, but here's our plan. Because the plan, if it's good enough, would motivate people to say, all right, that's a good plan. You know, we don't know if you'll succeed, but you're describing a real good free market path that is better than whatever the Democrats have. So let me give you a concrete example. Suppose Trump said something like this. Yes, we have not done a good enough job.
I think that, I don't think it's necessary to say, for Trump to say we haven't done enough or to frame it in a negative light like that. I think that's actually, Scott's the master persuader here, but I'm going to say I think that that's actually not the case. I do not think that it would play well if Trump came out and said, we haven't done a good enough job on this. There's ways that you could frame it. You could say things like, we're only just getting started. Or there's a long ways to go, and we've just taken the first couple of steps, but here's what we're having. You could frame it up in that way. But I think saying something like, we haven't even made a dent in it yet, or we've barely done anything, I think it's totally out of character for Trump, his personality. And I just don't think that that's going to play. I don't think it's going to be as good positively as it will be negatively, because it'll have positive impacts, but I think it would have more negative impacts. I think we're in this kind of, like, we're through the holiday season, and there was this big push for 2025, and then everyone's sort of kind of settling in and sort of, recouping, gathering energy, picking up steam, getting ready to launch into 2026. And I think that we're going to see a number of rhetorical pivots. We've already started to see some of them. They've talked about affordability and stuff a lot more, but I think we're going to see there's a number of policies that they're waiting to announce, particularly financial and tax policies and healthcare and some of these things that they're waiting for the rollover into the new year before they start getting into them.
With grocery prices overall. Now, it would not be limited to grocery prices. I'll extend this later to everything from transportation to medical expenses. So we have not done a good job. Here's our plan. By this date, we're going to try to get from this number to some smaller number. And here's what we're going to do to get there. Not everything we try will work, but we're going to keep hammering on this like a top priority, because there are several things we can do that have a good chance of working, but it might take you a year, and nobody has a better idea than that. So here are some examples. So let's say Trump said part of the reason food is expensive is because of too much regulation. Republicans like to hear that. Oh, too much regulation. I think Thomas Massey would be the best one to talk to this. So Trump might say, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to change the following regulations so that if you're a farmer, you could directly sell your food to consumers who are nearby.
I love Scott. I love that he is so good-hearted. At this point, I would frankly be shocked to see Thomas Massey deciding to take up a core Trump administration priority and try to run point on it, because now it could happen. And I want to leave the door open for this possibility that he's been playing the heel and that he's going to have a turn at some point in 2026 or something like that. Maybe he's squeezed all the juice he possibly can. Maybe he's running some sort of secret double agent op or something with the Epstein files. In which case, if that happens, I will tip my cap and say, I never saw it coming. Incredible. Well done. You're tremendous. And that'll make my soul very, very, very glad. I don't think that's going to happen. It seems to me that for whatever reason, Thomas Massey has decided, whether it's just he's taken stuff that Trump has said personally, or that Trump has said to him, he's taken it so personally, he just can't get over it, and he's gone full-blown Trump derangement syndrome. For whatever reason, he seems like he is just dedicated to obstructionism. The narrative is a little too easy to write here that he's in the tank for Ron DeSantis president in 2028. That this is an anti-JD move that Massey is making. Why he would be doing that? Not the foggiest idea. Makes literally no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, frankly, we've got a guy in the King Pill Discord, one of our favorite schizos, who has said that Massey got body swapped. That the real Massey's dead, and this is a fake Massey, and that's why he had the whole change in appearance and everything was a cover up for that. At this point, that seems as plausible to me as just about anything else. But leaving that aside, I think I like the gaming out that Scott's doing here.
Now, that would take away the transportation, the middlemen. It would take away just a whole bunch of expenses.
Yes,
and
Wyman!
turn some of your grocery buying into more of a local farmer's market situation. Now, these are just examples. So if you think that wouldn't work, just focus on the concept, right? So would you be convinced if Thomas Massey agreed with Trump that if you cut these specific regulations and you let the free market and farmers compete and sell what they want locally, et cetera, would that feel like it would lower grocery prices? The answer is yes. So instead of saying you haven't done it yet, you could look at the plan and you could say, okay, 1 year from now, you will have unleashed the free market? Yes, but that's not enough. It's not enough. So you need more to it. Suppose, because a big part of the expense of farming is power, suppose Trump said we're going to allow farms to have their own power plants, and we're going to make that easy and we'll get rid of regulation. So
it's very interesting that he's bringing this up, because this is one of the things that Trump has been doing with all the new data centers that they're building. And I think this is probably going to extend into other forms of manufacturing as well. With the whole reindustrialization process, they're incentivizing these companies to build up their own power generation in parallel with, because they get full expensing on all of this stuff. So if they build up their own power generation in parallel with the construction of the factory or the data center or whatever it is, then they can power themselves independently and they can actually sell excess back into the grid. And it's a way that you can decentralize and make the grid more robust at the same time. It also ties in very well with Bitcoin. Plugging Bitcoin into a bunch of these areas where you can monetize some of the inefficiencies or some of the overproduction, and it also is one of the reasons the Texas grid has been so stable the last couple of years after the big snowmageddon. Is Bitcoin mining has been maximized so much here in Texas, and the miners can scale up their energy use, scale up or down at a moment's notice, basically. So you basically get this extra buffer in energy production that is being directly monetized, and it maintains that buffer. So then the Bitcoin miners can shut things down if they need to, if there's suddenly going to be a huge draw on the grid. Then they can just dial their own mining back, everything else pulls up into that vacated zone that they've opened up until they don't need it anymore, and then everyone else dials their usage back down, and the Bitcoin miners dial theirs back up again. It's a great way to make the grid much more robust. This is the sort of thing that's happening all over the place right now. In all these different industries. If you can't see that 2026 is going to be a huge fucking year, you're not paying attention. You're in La La Land. Mr. Sue says, Scott Besson said, we will feel the economic wins in 2026. He also said target numbers are arbitrary and irrelevant. This is on the All In podcast, which I haven't watched yet, but I've got a couple of clips from it, and we're going to talk some economic stuff and Aristofag stuff tomorrow. So make sure you guys show up for that.
So we'll take the cost of electricity, or just power in general, and we'll greatly decrease it, maybe not overnight, but by making the cost of producing the food way less because they've got cheap energy. Maybe that's one thing. It would be similar to the strategy with AI. Then you say, we're going to use AI and maybe something like the Boring Company to build underground farms. You're going to use Optimists to pick the food. You're going to have self-driving trucks. So basically, you tell a story where a year from now, you'll have experimental, because it would be trials, it'd be experimental. You'll have experimental farms that are local, they're completely AI-driven. They got robots, they got self-driving trucks, and they're producing their own energy. That's a compelling story because you can imagine that so well. And then produce some pictures that show the robots bringing down the cost, etc. So the idea is for Republicans to admit that you can't make grocery prices go down overnight.
Good night, Nevsky. So this is, like, again, he's saying this is just one proposal. This particular proposal, that sounds pretty cool. Having like robot managed farms that with Optimus robots and stuff. Like, this is, I need the perpetual doomer skeptics to understand that this stuff, that there is a position that's somewhere between we're going to have robots running everything tomorrow and this is just silly science fiction nonsense. This stuff is very, very real. The number of things that we're going to be able to increasingly automate is rapidly increasing. Obviously, we're not going to be able to automate everything. Obviously, there's going to be shortfalls. Obviously, there's going to be other things that need to be solved. But the thing about human beings is that as we begin solving problems, we run into new problems, and we have a motivation to solve those problems so that we can solve the first problems we were trying to solve. And humanity is getting back into problem-solving mode right now on the back of President Donald John Trump. We are getting into problem-solving mode. So the idea of having a factory that is fully automated, that massively drives down the cost of food, is a very real thing. It could also massively drive down the cost of appliances, the cost of housing, the cost of just about anything else. Yes, there's lots of externalities from that have to be managed. Just like there is with literally every single technological innovation. Saying, oh, but the externalities. If you see the externality, then set yourself to solving that externality. If it's like automating the planting and all of that is going to involve, I don't know, maybe this is like synthetic foods or something, and that's bad. Well, how can we automate this with non-synthetic foods, with real foods? The people who are developing the technology to make the automated, robot-managed synthetic food farms are also developing the technology that could be used for the non-synthetic food farms. You have to take on an innovator's mindset. Entrepreneurs get a bad rap. But that's not because of entrepreneurs. That's because entrepreneur became associated with the laptop class because the non-laptop class abandoned the entrepreneurship perspective. There was a bunch of reasons for that, but those reasons are going away. Slaymuck, it seems like we should abolish the tech known as the printing press then because it has cursed these doomers with literacy. So true. So true. Spudruckus says, this is from Promethean Action talking about Massey and Epstein. She said there was a very salient point about how the bill was structured, explicitly to forbid addressing whether Epstein was working with intelligence for money laundering purposes. It's a complete misdirection, right under everyone's noses. Definitely need to watch it. I can link it to you for later on X. Yes, please do. Please do. That's exactly the sort of thing I was suspecting. I didn't care enough to go dig into it, but that's exactly the sort of poison pill I was suspecting. Because that's the only possible way I could see that literally every member of Congress, including all Democrats, would vote for it. If it's actually serving as some sort of obstruction or cover-up. And Massey is either the useful idiot or has just straight up is on the take, has gone to the dark side, whatever. And then Massey attacked Bondi immediately after. Yeah, trying to impeach Bondi. This is beyond just like, oh, well, I'm just a man of my principles. No, this is like the political version of concern trolling. And if you think, I don't know, like if you can't see that the way that I do, then, you know, maybe this is just where we part ways. Maybe there is no resolving this issue between me and the people who think that Massey is some sort of great freedom fighter. I don't like seeing Massey as an explicit agent of evil, but he's sure acting like it.
But what you can do is have a rational plan to get there that Democrats would not have. Because you got Bernie, who's trying to stop AI. So if you've got one guy who's trying to stop AI, and another one that says, here's our plan to use AI to reduce grocery prices by 40%, it's just going to take a year or two. Which one would you pick? There's only one who has a plan. All right, so that's my persuasion suggestion, is you have to have a 1 or 2 year plan. It has to be something that's based on something you really do, you know, AI, remove regulations, etc. And you have to have a very specific target that's not crazy. Even if you get your critics to argue whether your target is achievable,
This point,
you still win. Because
even if you get your critics to argue with whether or not your target is achievable, you still win.
they would still be comparing it to the Democrats with no plan at all, or some socialist plan. That doesn't sound good.
That is a very, very useful thing to remember. Just simply getting them to argue is a win. To argue with the plan. No, the plan won't work. That's a win in and of itself. Ryan Isaac says, I know so many people in my physical orbit that thrive on doomerism cloaked as trutherism. Finding the new secret. And Zoomer Dylan said the exact same thing I was going to say. Doomerism is Gnosticism. That's exactly what it is. That's why the doomers and the truthers, as distinguished from the truthsters, the doomers and the truthers have a significant overlap. And it's because they're Gnostic-minded. Oh, if we just get that secret knowledge, there's that one missing thing that I don't know about. We need this thing declassified. We need answers. We deserve the truth. These are all motivated by Gnosticism. That's not to say that that's not to say that like bad, evil things should be covered up. I'm saying that building your whole identity around it is bad for you and everyone around you. All right. You guys ready? You guys ready for some battleships? Fucking battleships? The Trump class. U.S. President Donald J. Trump has officially announced the Trump class battleship, led by the first ship of the class, the USS Defiant. How's that for a name? The USS Defiant, which President Trump states will be, quote, the fastest and biggest battleship in the history of the world, because of course it is. The Trump class, headlined by the USS Defiant, it would not be anything except for the fastest and biggest battleship in the history of the world. The Great Golden Fleet. We're getting a Golden Fleet, boys and girls, with a total of 10 ships set to be built and 2 claimed to have so far been approved to begin construction at shipyards in the United States. Do you know what building battleships means? Building battleships means a hell of a lot of jobs that pay really fucking well. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Fully gold-pilled, that's right. Look at this. I don't know if this is actually going to show up right. Oh yeah, it does. There we go. The Trump class. the USS Defiant. Look at these frickin' beauties. Look at that. We're going to sail the seas again, boys. We're bringing back Master and Commander, sailing the seas, pursuing evil miscreants, taking down pirates. Look at that. Yes. Oh, if you guys don't follow John Conrad, you missed out on some fun yesterday. He's one of our great merchant marine advocates who's been talking. He's been like raising the alarm, yelling, "We need shipbuilding. Build us ships. Build us frigates. Build us battleships. Give us ships." And the White House they gave him a Pentagon press pass, and they've been directly reaching out and corresponding with him. Someone from the White House even reached out to him personally before this announcement to say, "Hey, FYI, here's your fucking battleships coming." The Navy is listening to some of our greatest posters. Look at this. He says, here's John Conrad. He says, "Come on, Dems, be honest. Deep down, isn't there a tiny seedling-sized trace of testosterone left in your brain that looks at this battleship video and thinks, oh yeah, that's kind of awesome? Battleship video, guys!" Fuck you, cartels! Fuck you, Chi-Coms! Sailing the open seas! Launching missiles! And our boy Suda's on the job. We are going to fucking kill you. Tikon says, okay, I might just move to work on this. Yes, do it. Many such cases. So many guys are going to move just to start working on these. I've heard rumors that there's going to be new shipyards being opened in the United States because of this. I have let's just say I've got a close connection to shipyards. And there is very strong rumors that there are new shipyards that are going to be built in the United States specifically for the purposes of shipbuilding. And almost all of this is being funded through these trade deals. Remember when everyone's like, oh, you're spending too much time on foreign policy. Yeah, all that time spent on foreign policy was raising all of the money to come invest in our country, building us shipyards and fucking battleships. We're going to build battleships and the Chinese are going to pay for it. Take that, Chi-Coms. We used to build the best ships. Yes, yes. And we're going to again. There's a theme here. I've seen way too many responses to this that are just like, oh, that's going to take a decade to do all that. It's never going to happen. Next president's just going to put the kibosh on it. It's either the next president is going to put the kibosh on it or the next president is going to put rainbow flags on them. I mean, frankly, I would rather have battleships with rainbow flags than no battleships at all. But if you see the announcement of the Golden Fleet, battleships with mounted rail guns, and your reaction to that is, oh, it's never going to happen, seek Canadian healthcare. Just for the best of all of us, just go seek Canadian healthcare.
Why are you so fucking negative all the time?
Look at this. The U.S. Navy, this is directly from goldenfleet.navy.mil. goldenfleet.navy.mil. The U.S. Navy is a visible symbol of American strength and resolve to defend our nation throughout the globe, and it requires the most capable and advanced fleet. The Golden Fleet is the Navy's bold investment to revitalize America's maritime industrial base, rapidly building and sustaining the fleet, and fundamentally changing how we do business in order to keep projecting peace through power. The Golden Fleet. It's just, the man knows how to brand the Golden Fleet. And this is perfectly, part of the reason you know this is going to happen is because it's perfectly consistent with everything else the administration has been doing, as we've documented for the last year and a half. If you were listening to the Astrolabe a year and a half ago, you would have heard about reindustrialization coming. You would have heard about the reshoring of manufacturing. That this was a major focus of the administration. This is perfectly consistent with everything else. Returning industry, peace through strength, military technology development, the deployment of AI and drone capacity, all of this stuff all comes together in fucking battleships. The Trump class, the USS Defiant, just... Now, I'm not a Star Trek guy, so I've never seen Deep Space Nine, but for those of you who have, I apparently this is meaningful to you. The most lethal warship to ever be built. America's next battleship, the USS Defiant, will be part of a new class of large surface combatants with the most destructive firepower of any surface ship to ever sail, having the ability to strike an adversary at 100 times the range of the previous class. The Trump-class battleship will be the first ever guided missile battleship with the ability to deploy with nuclear and hypersonic missiles. I don't know what most of this stuff means, frankly. I know some of you guys do, but this part right here, I know what that means. Oh boy, do I know what that means. A battleship with a fucking railgun on it. Ah! Now we just got to get Marty O'Donnell elected into office. This modern battleship will leverage state-of-the-art combat systems, including large missile vertical launch systems, to deliver long-range hypersonic strike against strategic targets ashore that are unreachable by the current fleet, and directed energy weapons to deliver more favorable exchange ratios against enemy threats. The battleship will be capable of operating independently as part of a carrier strike group, or commanding its own surface action group depending on the mission and threat environment. With the ability to provide forward command and control for both manned and unmanned platforms, Battleship will be a critical component in executing the Navy warfighting concept. Here's all the technical specs for those who, for whom they are meaningful. I'll admit they're not particularly meaningful to me. I just see Battleship and I get excited. The class size, 20 to 25 ships. They're looking at making 20 to 25 of these. Primary mission, power projection. Offensive strike, integrated air and missile defense. Oh, isn't it beautiful? I'm going to rail the Kycoms with my gun. My Trumps has gone terminal. The president has been clear. We must bring back our American maritime industrial might. And he has told me many times that as Secretary of the Navy, it is my job to equip our sailors to win the fight at sea with the finest ships in our history. Now, when a conflict arises, you're going to ask us two questions. Where is the carrier, and where is the battleship? The Honorable John C. Phelan, 79th Secretary of the Navy. Look at it! Ah! Frickin' lasers! They're putting Jewish space lasers on our battleship! As we forge the future of our Navy's fleet, we need a larger surface combatant, and the Trump-class battleships meet that requirement. We will ensure continuous improvement, intellectually honest assessments about the requirement to effectively deter and win in the 2030s and beyond, and disciplined execution resulting in a fleet unparalleled in lethality, adaptability, and strength. Admiral Daryl Cottle, 34th Chief of Naval Operations. I just got to say, I really like seeing my military leadership using words like lethality versus gay flags. Here is the press release from it. Imagine. Go back like 3 years. Think about where you were 3 years ago. End of 2022. And someone sent you this. Just this screenshot right here. President Trump announces new battleship. 22 December 2025. Today, President Donald J. Trump and Secretary of the Navy John C. Phelan, alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, announced their intent to construct a new class of American-designed battleships that will be the most lethal surface combatant ever constructed. The future USS Defiant, BBG-1, will be the first Trump-class battleship and will be an unambiguous statement of American commitment to maritime superiority with capability to distribute more firepower across the fleet than any other class of ship for any Navy in history. These new battleships will stand as the centerpiece of the Navy's Golden Fleet Initiative and will be the first of its kind, providing dominant firepower and a decisive advantage over adversaries by integrating the most advanced deep strike weapons of today with the revolutionary systems of the years ahead. Engineered to outmatch any foreign adversary, the new battleship class will be the centerpiece of naval power. At triple the size of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, its massive frame provides superior firepower, larger missile magazines, and the capability to launch conventional prompt strike hypersonic missiles and the surface launch cruise missile nuclear. The Trump class will be capable of operating in a traditional integrated air and missile defense role with a carrier strike group, or commanding its own surface action group for surface and anti-submarine warfare efforts, in addition to delivering long-range hypersonic strategic fires and quarterbacking the operations of an entire fleet as the central command control node. The battleship will be acquired using a Navy-led industry collaborative design team approach to accelerate design and construction, and supported by over 1,000 suppliers in nearly every state in America. The Navy will continue to build and employ DDG-51 as its fleet workhorse, and develop FFX as a highly producible combatant, growing the fleet rapidly through a more intentional high-low mix of capability and platforms. Hopefully some of you guys know some of the jargon here. The introduction of the Trump class symbolizes the Navy's 250-year commitment to innovation and maritime dominance. From seabed to space, the Navy delivers power for peace, always ready to fight and win. This milestone marks the Navy's enduring legacy and commitment to shaping the future of maritime power. Big, beautiful battleships. So many BBBs. Now check this out. Listen to this from that announcement. You've got Otto von Bismarck here, along with the president, Pete Hegseth, and John C. Phelan, the Navy Secretary. Listen to what Trump says.
We'll be discussing the pay to executives where they're making $45 and $50 million a year and not being able to build quickly. They're going to make that kind of money. They have to build quickly. Again, we make the best equipment in the world, but they don't make them fast enough. And we're going to be also discussing dividends. We want the dividends to go into the creation of production facilities. So we'll be talking about all CapEx, dividends, and the pay. We're also going to be talking about buybacks. They spend so much money on buybacks. They want to buy back their stock. I don't want them to buy back their stock. I want them to put the money in plant and equipment.
Trump on the defense prime contractors focusing on Wall Street instead of production. We will be discussing executive pay, dividends, CapEx, and buybacks. I don't want them buying back their stock. I want them putting the money into plant and equipment. Geiger Capital said, the president is now meeting with the major defense contractors and pressuring them to put national interests above profits. Realize where we are. The president is telling the defense contractors, you need to knock off the Jew shit. Cut that out. None of this financialization bullshit. We're going to make sure that you're tremendously profitable with the expectation that you're going to redirect that profit back into further industrialization and development. You have an obligation of your position. You've been blessed to be put in that role, and we will remove you from that role if you don't redirect all that wealth back into the country. No stock buybacks. No disproportionate pay packages and dividends. No. You're going to get rich, but you're going to take that and you're going to reinvest it in the country. Yeah, Tikon, Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop, General Dynamics, Textron, they all have to be brought to heel. That's the signal here. And I just got to say, pray for Donald Trump. Say a prayer for protection for that man every day. And J.D. Vance, for that matter. Now, let's talk about this Supreme Court ruling. The headlines, all the breaking slop headlines, said, the Supreme Court ruled against Trump. See? We knew it was going to end. They finally got to the Supreme Court. And they ruled against him 6-3. We've been betrayed. John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh. They betrayed us. What are we talking about? Well, the Supreme Court did rule against the government, against Trump, on this matter of Trump versus Illinois and the deployment of the National Guard to Illinois. But there's some fine print here. And here's the thing I'm going to recommend to you. When you see some sort of breaking slop, particularly if there's no source with it, that's what a lot of these do. Leading Report, Disclose.tv, a bunch of these breaking slop accounts. They just say breaking or new, and then they just have like a one-sentence thing framed in a particular way, and they might say like Fox or Wall Street Journal or, Bloomberg or whatever. And then everybody chimps out at the breaking slop tweet, but it's very, very easy. Yes, Slutty Milk, it's very easy, especially if you're on X. When you see a headline like that, just click the Grok button. Not that Grok is the source of truth, but just click the Grok button and ask it to contextualize it or explain any more details associated with it. Give yourself 5 minutes and just kind of drill down into that. Ask some probing questions. Probe the clanker a little bit. He likes it. And you're going to find, more often than not, that these things are being presented to you in a particular way to provoke a particular emotional response from you. And every time you do that, you should go flog yourself. Every time you give in to that emotional response and start dooming, you should go flog yourself for being gay.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
So in this case, let's drill into this just a little bit, shall we? From Clandestine, at War Clandestine, on X. He says, holy shit, I think it's actually happening. I'm reading through the Supreme Court ruling in Trump versus Illinois, and they ruled that Trump needs to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to send the troops into Chicago. Kavanaugh, in his dissent, even says that this ruling, quote, could cause the president to use the U.S. military more than the National Guard. The Supreme Court just admitted that Trump has the authority to invoke the Insurrection Act to bypass posse comitatus and send the troops to Chicago and any other city he wants. Trump tried to exhaust every legal avenue possible before resorting to the Insurrection Act, but the Democrats resisted and refused to cooperate. Sounds to me like Trump just got the green light. Quoting from the opinion here. At this preliminary stage, the government has failed to identify a source of authority that would allow the military to execute the laws in Illinois. The president has not invoked a statute that provides an exception to the Posse Comitatus Act. Instead, he relies on inherent constitutional authority that, according to the government, allows him to use the military to protect federal personnel and property. But the government also claims, consistent with the longstanding view of the executive branch, that performing such protective functions does not constitute executing the laws within the meaning of the Posse Comitatus Act. Now, there is a footnote from Kavanaugh, who was concurring with the majority. He said, as I read it, the court's opinion does not address the president's authority under the Insurrection Act. Moreover, the court's opinion does not address or purport to disturb the president's long-asserted Article II authority to use the U.S. military, as distinct from the National Guard, to protect federal personnel and property and thereby ensure the execution of federal law. As Professor Goldsmith has succinctly explained, quote, "The protective power is the president's inherent or independent Article 2 power to protect federal personnel, property, and functions. The key point is that the president can assert the protective power without reliance on Section 12406. He can deploy regular armed forces without any need to federalize the Guard. Presidents often have." End quote. This is from Jay Goldsmith. President Trump holds the legal cards on the use of the military in the domestic sphere and executive functions, from October 8 of 2025. Kavanaugh says, one apparent ramification of the court's opinion is that it could cause the president to use the U.S. military more than the National Guard to protect federal personnel and property in the United States. So, the president can't use the National Guard, but he could use the Marines. How about that? Margot Cleveland here said, she said, huge loss to Trump and our country, which actually it's not. Said, I already read that part here. But this here, there was another, hold on a second. I included this because there was a separate quote in this. Hold on. Kavanaugh highlights what the court just teed up. I thought I had a separate quote in here related to the case, but maybe I didn't. Oh, right here. Yeah. We conclude that the term regular forces in 12406 likely refers to the regular forces of the United States military. This interpretation means that to call the Guard into active federal service under 12406.3, the president must be unable with the regular military to execute the laws of the United States. End quote. Because the statute requires an assessment of the military's ability to execute the laws, it likely applies only where the military could legally execute the laws. Such circumstances are exceptional. Under the Posse Comitatus Act, the military is prohibited from executing the laws, quote, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress, end quote. So before the president can federalize the Guard under 12406.3, he likely must have statutory or constitutional authority to execute the laws with the regular military and must be unable with those forces to perform that function. So what they're saying, together with Kavanaugh's footnote there, is they're blocking Trump from using the National Guard because they're saying, if this is the circumstance you say it is, then it is appropriate to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy the actual military. That is the actual impact of this Supreme Court opinion. They basically just opened the door to explicitly, proactively open the door to the Insurrection Act and deploying the actual military over and above the National Guard. And they're saying the only time that you could actually use the Guard that way is if you've already deployed the military, but you need more. Now, I don't think that there's going to be, it's going to be just like smooth sailing from here on out. Obviously, if he invokes the Insurrection Act, then there's going to be a whole new fight, but that's how this whole thing is going to work. We've just moved to the next step. Border Commander Greg Bavino just posted this. This is delicious. Delicious.
So some of you may or may not have heard that.
What a fag.
Customs and Border Patrol.
Come on, man. And with the local DVC news.
And its leader, Gregory Bavino.
LQJ with a triumphant comeback.
Are back in Chicago as of this morning.
LQJ with a triumphant comeback. Come on, man. And with the local DVC news. LQJ with
we were not given any notice by them. They call it enforcement, we call it harassment.
Hey, we just got rocked.
Come on, man.
Frankly, I'm very proud of the way that Illinoisans have reacted to CBP and ICE.
But tonight,
Don't call it.
Okay, Jew. Okay, you fucking Jew. Fucking Jew from Israel. Silence.
We weren't given advance notice, but he's back. No, not the Spagigger. He's back in our state again, and they didn't tell us he was coming. Unpublished but finalized, DHS has quietly rewritten the H-1B lottery. Before this rule even hits the Federal Register, here's what actually changes in plain English, based directly on the final rule text. First, the H-1B lottery is no longer purely random. USCIS is replacing the random lottery with a wage-weighted selection system. Registrations are still beneficiary-based, but higher wages now get better odds. Number 2, wage level determines lottery odds. Each H-1B registration is entered into the selection pool based on the offered wage. At wage level 4, it's entered 4 times. Wage level 3, entered 3 times. Wage level 2, entered twice, and wage level 1, entered once. Yes, Bloody Milk, $100,000 fee, wage weighting. I don't know, guys. Sounds like they're strangling the problem, not importing 1 trillion Indians. But my breaking slop account said, every worker is still counted once toward the cap, but higher wages dramatically increase selection probability. Number 3, employers must disclose wage details up front. During registration, employers must now submit the OEWS wage level, the SOC code, and the area of intended employment. These same details must later match the filed petition exactly. Number 4, USCIS can deny or revoke petitions for manipulation. USCIS explicitly adds authority to deny amended or new petitions and revoke approvals. If the agency believes changes were made to game the lottery, whether through job title, location, wage level, or entity swapping, then they can deny the petition or revoke the approval. Number 5, entry-level and lower wage H-1Bs are heavily disadvantaged. Again, abolishing the program can only be, that's one of those things that can only be done through Congress. If you want to abolish the program without Congress, this is how you do it. You strangle it to death. Or at the very least, you apply so much pressure that it's backed into a corner where it can't be abused in the way that it was before. And it's, again, this is a long-term game. DHS estimates a sharp drop in wage level 1 selection. They're literally gaming the system against wage level 1 selection. The rule openly acknowledges that past abuse centered on lower paid roles, IT staffing and outsourcing firms, and wage suppression of U.S. workers. This rule is designed to reverse that trend. Number 6, the cap size does not change. 65,000 regular cap and 20,000 advanced degree cap. What changes is who wins, not how many. Effective timeline. Final rule, effective for fiscal year 2027 registration season. Applies to all cap subject registrations after the effective date. Bottom line, this rule explicitly admits the H-1B program has been abused, prioritizes higher wages over volume hiring, makes entry-level and low-wage H-1Bs far harder to secure, and gives USCIS stronger enforcement tools. It does not end H-1Bs, but it fundamentally reshapes who benefits from them. So this is absolutely going to there's going to be lawsuits about this, which I'm sure is part of the reason why they're setting it up to be effective for fiscal year 2027. Rather than implementing it immediately now and then having it get all bogged down, they're going to set it up to be effective fiscal year 2027. We're already in fiscal year 2026. So this is the next fiscal year. It starts then. And there's all the legislation is going to get hammered out between now and then, and it's going to be a full roll by the time we get there. And that would be the goal. Hot off the presses, the Office of Legal Counsel finds that grant programs for minority-serving higher education institutions are unconstitutional race-based discrimination. The Justice Department is ending state-sponsored discrimination at colleges and universities. The war on woke under Attorney General Pam Bondi continues. You know, I'm not like some big fan of Pam Bondi. If they were like, we're replacing her with someone else, I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm cool. I'm curious to see what this someone else is going to accomplish. But you're just completely out to lunch if you think that the Justice Department under Pam Bondi hasn't been doing a hell of a lot. This is a memorandum opinion for the Acting General Counsel, Department of Education, Constitutionality of Race-Based Department of Education Programs. Certain race-based grant programs administered by the Department of Education violate the Fifth Amendment's equal protection component. The Department of Education administers grants, preferences, and scholarships that distinguish between beneficiaries based on race. You have asked us to consider whether several such programs are unconstitutional after the court's decision in Students for Fair Admissions, Inc. versus President and Fellows of Harvard College, and if so, whether the race-based portions of those programs are inseverable. Many of these programs restrict award eligibility to educational institutions whose student bodies reflect a particular racial composition. The Developing Hispanic Serving Institutions program, for instance, is open only to educational institutions whose student bodies are 25% Hispanic or more. The Alaskan Native and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions program similarly restricts eligibility to students with at least a certain percentage of Alaskan Native and other programs award benefits to students directly. Our analysis proceeds in three parts. In part one, we articulate the equal protection standards that govern our review. In part two, we describe the severability doctrine. We apply these standards in part three and conclude that, with a handful of exceptions, the race-based portions of the Department of Education programs are unconstitutional and inseverable from their surrounding statutory schemes. So note here that the Department of Education asked the Department of Justice on the basis of this case to determine how many of these programs are unconstitutional. And now the Department of Justice is coming back and saying, yes, they are. You must stop. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirms he is ending the NGO foreign aid industrial complex. This clip is a few days old. I had it intended for an episode last week or something like that, but better late than never, because there's been an update to related to this story
of our foreign policy, and it should be used for the purpose of furthering the national interest. That doesn't mean we don't care about human rights. That doesn't mean we don't care about starvation. That doesn't mean we don't care about hunger. That doesn't mean we don't care about humanitarian need. What it does mean, however, is that even foreign aid, which is not charity, it is an act of the U.S. taxpayer. Now, American charities are free to give their money to whoever they want, as long as it's not a sanctioned entity. But
the Dominican Republic. The Dominicans. It turns out that the DR produces more than just baseball players. There you go. The Dominican Republic.
But the United States and the taxpayer money should be spent in furtherance of our foreign policy. Should be spent in places and on things that further our foreign policy. And even that is not unlimited. We have a limited amount of money that we can dedicate to foreign aid and humanitarian assistance. And that has to be applied in a way that furthers our national interests. And that's what we have sought to do as well. And in that endeavor as well, we have empowered the regional bureaus and our embassies to play a dramatic role. In fact, they are not just the implementers of this. They, in many cases, are the ones that are suggesting and are leading the response. And so bringing the tools of foreign aid underneath the umbrella of our broader foreign policy has been an important and dramatic reform. Even in the midst of all that, we remain engaged around the world, including in conflicts that perhaps are not central to everyday life in America, but the president has made it a priority to be a peacemaker.
Interesting. He says some of these, he's acknowledging that some of these things they're engaged in may not have direct, immediate, relevant applicability to the homeland, but for other reasons, the president wants to be a peacemaker. He's a president of peace, after all. So then, this is from today, from Marco Grande. For far too long, ideologues in Europe have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to punish American viewpoints they oppose. The Trump administration will no longer tolerate these egregious acts of extraterritorial censorship. Today, the State Department will take steps to bar leading figures of the global censorship industrial complex from entering the United States. We stand ready and willing to expand this list if others do not reverse course. The Trump, Marco Rubio State Department is now banning European censorship bureaucrats from entering the United States. Remember I showed you this video from Undersecretary of State Sarah B. Rogers?
Add one more thing on the Online Safety Act, and I emphasized this earlier, but I want to say it again. It's misguided and unfortunate to apply that law in Britain, but applying that law extraterritorially, which means applying it to speech that has nothing to do with Britain, does not occur in Britain, is on American platforms by American users on American political issues, purporting to censor Americans in America is a deal breaker. It is a non-starter. It is a red line. And that's what Ofcom has tried to do with the Online Safety Act, and that's one reason the American government is concerned.
Okay. Remember when that guy Thierry Breton, that EU bureaucrat, tried to prevent Elon Musk from interviewing Donald Trump on X? Remember that? A European bureaucrat had the gall to say, hey, American Elon Musk on your American platform X, you may not interview a candidate for American president. Yeah, there were plenty of Americans who were like, all right, you fucking Eurofags, how about you get your shit out of our business?
Okay, but will your government then take legal action against Ofcom if they try and overreach in the way you've described?
Well, there's already formal action proposed. There is a bill before the House called the Granite Act that would amend an existing statute to clarify that as a matter of American public policy, any penalties imposed by Ofcom are unenforceable against American companies. So our legislature will likely consider that, and we'll certainly consider other options if indeed the British government insists upon trying to nullify the First Amendment on American soil with respect to American companies.
An American government that protects American businesses. Can you imagine such a thing? This is the same chick who also posted a video of herself going out of her way to say the word faggot as a, what is she, the Undersecretary of State? She said faggot specifically to prove a point that a European person would not be allowed to say faggot in Europe on a platform on the internet there. So she says, today the United States issued sanctions reinforcing the red line I invoked on GB News, namely extraterritorial censorship of Americans. Today's sanctions target the censorship NGO ecosystem. These sanctions are visa-related. We aren't invoking severe Magnitsky-style financial measures, but our message is clear. If you spend your career fomenting censorship of American speech, you're unwelcome on American soil. This is clever diplomatic speak. What this means is, we can take this up another level if you really want us to. We're sending a message, and we're happy to escalate if need be. We're happy to invoke severe Magnitsky-style financial measures upon you. But at the very least, for now, you're not going to be allowed in America. Our targets are foreign, but you'll notice that some collaborated with U.S. bureaucrats on Murthy-style speech suppression. Don't worry, we're pursuing transparency, truth, and reconciliation at the State Department too. Truth and reconciliation for American censorship bureaucrats. She just said we're going to be pursuing truth and reconciliation against U.S. bureaucrats who collaborated with foreign Eurofag commies. We've sanctioned Thierry Breton, a mastermind of the Digital Services Act. In August of 2024, while serving as European Commissioner for Internal Markets and Digital Services, he published a letter using the DSA to threaten Elon Musk ahead of his livestream interview with President Trump. Before the interview, Breton ominously reminded Musk of X's legal obligations and ongoing formal proceedings for alleged non-compliance with illegal content and disinformation requirements under the DSA. Remember, he was the European Commissioner for Internal Markets and Digital Services. He published this letter threatening Elon, and within a couple of weeks, stepped down from that position. Sounds to me like a message was sent rather quickly, and now the dude's not even going to be allowed in the country. We've sanctioned Star Wars name. Imran Ahmed, key collaborator with the Biden administration's effort to weaponize the government against U.S. citizens. Ahmed's group, you may have heard this. If you're a Mike Benz American, you may have heard this name before. The Center for Countering Digital Hate created the infamous Disinformation Dozen report, which called for platforms to deplatform 12 American anti-vaxxers, including now HHS Secretary Kennedy. Leaked documents from CCDH show the organization listed, quote, kill Musk's Twitter and, quote, trigger EU and UK regulatory action as priorities. The organization supports the UK's Online Safety Act and EU's Digital Services Act to expand censorship in Europe and around the world. Imran Ahmed, you're sanctioned. We've sanctioned Claire Melford. She leads Global Disinformation Index, a UK-based organization that monitors websites for hate speech and disinformation. If you question Canadian blood libels about residential schools, you're engaging in hate speech, according to Melford and GDI. This NGO used State Department taxpayer money to exhort censorship and blacklisting of American speech and press. They also joined the deleterious EU Code of Practice on Disinformation. Digital denialism around residential schools and abuses against Native communities. Remember that story? Total and utter bullshit. All the kids' bodies that were supposedly discovered turned out to be total fake news. We've sanctioned Annalena von Hodenberg, the leader and founder of Hate Aid, a German they literally called their organization Hate Aid. A German organization founded after the 2017 German federal elections to counter conservative groups. Hate Aid is an official trusted flagger, a censor under the EU's Anti-Speech Digital Services Act, and routinely demands access to proprietary social media platform data to help it censor more. Hodenberg cited threat of disinformation from right-wing extremists online in upcoming US and EU elections when circulating a petition for the DSA to become more strongly enforced to allow data access for researchers. Annalena von Hodenberg, you're sanctioned. We've sanctioned Josephine Ballon, co-leader of Hate Aid, who flags disfavored speech throughout Europe under the Digital Services Act. In addition to her running an official trusted faggot body under the DSA, she serves on Germany's Advisory Council of the Digital Services Coordinator, which directly advises Germany's DSC on the application and enforcement of the DSA. In February of 2025, Ballon spoke before an American audience in a notable 60 Minutes interview outlining her position on censorship succinctly, quote, free speech needs boundaries. In October of 2024, she vowed to stop the, quote, emotionalization of debates by, quote, regulating platforms. None of those sanctioned is a current UK or EU official. However, we know that foreign government officials are actively targeting the United States. This week, the UK's Liberal Democrats claimed President Trump's national security strategy amounts to, quote, foreign interference by a, quote, hostile foreign state, because it correctly identifies mass migration and decaying national sovereignty as existential European security concerns. This is, I don't know if you guys, I did not expect a State Department that was going to actually go on the offensive against Europe. This is diplomatic speak for right now, we're sanctioning NGO leaders. But we're well aware that actual government officials in Europe are guilty of this same stuff. And if you guys don't knock it off, we're going to start treating you as a hostile foreign state. We are going to start sanctioning European leadership. She repeated this again. I don't know if this is on purpose or not. Our targets are foreign, but you'll notice that some collaborated with U.S. bureaucrats in Murthy-style speech suppression. Don't worry, we're pursuing transparency, truth, and reconciliation at the State Department, too. I really hope she did this. She should have just done it a few more times. Truth and reconciliation at the State Department. Truth and reconciliation at the State Department. Truth and reconciliation at the State Department. And here it said explicitly, as Secretary Rubio has noted, today's list is illustrative, not exhaustive. We stand ready and willing to expand it. We have only just begun to sanction you faggots. We are more than happy to add to this list if you'd like. Oh. All right. Let's talk a little bit about J.D. Vance. We'll get to him in just a second. I got to set that up, though. This person here says about Joel Webbin, you claim to be a descendant of the original settlers, a heritage American. Since this claim is used to confer standing authority superiority and to justify exclusion, evidence is required. How do you know your biological ancestry actually goes back that far, and what evidence of your lineage supports this claim? Ah! I see that the game is escalating now. Now we're starting to get genealogical dick measuring on the timeline. I like this development. Joel Webbin says, what exactly is a heritage American? The Zionist subversive asks. Teddy Roosevelt answers just fine. Quote, the great Teddy Roosevelt. The great Roosevelt, you might say. The children and grandchildren of the men who came here from England, Ireland, Germany, France, Scandinavia, and the rest of Europe have become Americans. A new race with a new ethnic type. And they are no more Englishmen or Germans or Scandinavians than the descendants of the Norman invaders of England are Frenchmen. The frontier conditions made a new race. The stern struggle with the wilderness and with wild men welded together the descendants of many European stocks into one people, the American. Out of the crucible of the wilderness came a new ethnic type, hardy, self-reliant, democratic in instinct, and with a continent for its inheritance. End quote. In other words, you don't have to prove your ancestry back to the Mayflower, although it is good and right to show honor to these particular families. However, if your name is Vivek and your parents arrived in just the last 60 years, only after a subversive Jew succeeded in permanently weakening America through the Hart-Celler Act, you are a paper American, not a heritage American. Have some humility towards the native citizens whose ancestors actually built the country you get to enjoy. Hope this helps. Well stated. For more on heritage Americans from our vice president, Sohrab Ahmari interviewed him on Nick Fuentes, heritage Americans, and other things. And we're going to read it. It's published yesterday. J.D. Vance has for months faced mounting pressure to censure Nicholas J. Fuentes, and his army of boisterously racist and anti-Semitic supporters, known as Groypers. Speaking exclusively to Unheard at the vice president's residence on Friday, he doesn't mince his words. Quote, let me be clear, he says. Anyone who attacks my wife, whether their name is Jen Psaki, the former Biden press secretary, or Nick Fuentes, can eat shit. That's my official policy as vice president of the United States. I gotta respect it. If you're gonna attack my wife, you can eat shit. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you believe. If you attack my wife, you get to eat shit. Anti-Semitism and all forms of ethnic hatred, he says, have no place in the conservative movement. Whether you're attacking somebody because they're white or because they're black or because they're Jewish, I think it's disgusting, end quote. If that were the end of it, Vance would be a typical politician of an earlier age, and we likely wouldn't be sitting down for an interview in his library at the Naval Observatory in Washington. That sentence right here, if that were the end of it, Vance would be a typical politician of an earlier age. Here's some word cell advice for the autists. That's his way of saying that Vance is saying this obviously as a political trope, but there's much more to it. Vance isn't typical. About to take off for the Christmas vacation, America's first millennial Veep is dressed in a crisp button-down and fleece vest with dark denim. His getup strikes a sharp contrast with his old-timey surroundings, lined with leather-bound books by and about vice presidents. His own memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, is among the newer additions. A medieval-style painted crucifix stands out from the shelves. More to the point, Vance is acutely sensitive to subterranean political and cultural shifts, which until recently only registered on the seismometer known as the internet, but which are starting to remake the world above ground. Fuentes, who has called Second Lady Usha Vance a Jeet and labeled the vice president a race traitor for marrying her, is but one jagged spike on the seismic wave. And to Vance, not even an especially pronounced one. Says Vance, I think that Nick Fuentes, his influence within Donald Trump's administration and within a whole host of institutions on the right, is vastly overstated. And frankly, it's overstated by people who want to avoid having a foreign policy conversation about America's relationship with Israel. End quote. That is, the Hitler-praising Groyper King functions as a useful foil for pro-Israel hardliners in the right's raucous internal debate over America's alliance with the Jewish state. And I do think that is, he is putting JD's words in his own words here, but I do think that is a pretty accurate restating of what he's saying here. Now, I will also say that obviously, this is political speak. Obviously, Nick Fuentes does have significant influence within Donald Trump's administration, within a whole host of institutions on the right, because you're having the conversation about it. The mere fact that you're having that conversation is evidence that it's true. But JD's a clever man. He knows how to play these games. We haven't seen a lot of politicians who know how to play these games. JD knows how to play these games. Trump transcends the game. He's just going to say what he thinks and isn't beholden to anyone. JD is a clever operator. This is why some people don't like him, because they recognize that he's clever, that he has inside thoughts and he has outside thoughts, and he's very careful about mediating between the two. The debate descended into out-and-out civil war last week at a gathering of Turning Point USA, the organization founded by the late Charlie Kirk, with Ben Shapiro denouncing the podcaster and Vance ally Tucker Carlson, and being denounced in turn by Steve Bannon and Megyn Kelly, representing the insurgent Israel critical camp. The vice president tells me he hasn't yet watched the dueling speeches, but thinks it's healthy for the debate to continue. In his own address to TPUSA Sunday, Vance glossed over the controversy, rejecting purity tests. By the way, we're going to watch that here after this. It's a 30-minute speech, and I had a number of you guys send it to me and say, this is worth watching. So we're going to watch it. Note here, the subtext. So you've got Ben Shapiro representing establishment, Zionism, conservative Inc., boomer cons, yada, yada, yada. Evangelical Christianity. And he is denouncing Tucker Carlson. And then you've got Steve Bannon and Megyn Kelly firing back. They're much more willing to be critical of Israel and question the relationship that Israel has with the United States. Obviously, Fuentes is sort of like a third party here, sort of, but Bannon and Megyn Kelly are, in their own ways, rhetorically, running cover for what Fuentes is doing. And J.D. Vance is like, let's just hear what everyone has to say. Tucker Carlson, for example, gets a robust defense from Vance. Quote, Tucker's a friend of mine, he tells me. And do I have disagreements with Tucker Carlson? Sure. I have disagreements with most of my friends, especially those who work in politics. You know this. Most people who know me know this. I'm also a very loyal person. Loyalty, ding, ding, ding. I'm a very loyal person, and I'm not going to get into the business of throwing friends under the bus. He goes on. The idea that Tucker Carlson, who has one of the largest podcasts in the world, who has millions of listeners, who supported Donald Trump in the 2024 election, who supported me in the 2024 election, the idea that his views are somehow completely anathema to conservatism, that he has no place in the conservative movement, is frankly absurd. And I don't think anybody actually believes it. What's really afoot, he thinks, is gatekeeping. And people are, quote, trying to settle their own ideological scores, end quote, especially with respect to Washington's policies in the Middle East. Quote, I happen to believe that Israel is an important ally, and that there are certain things that we're certainly going to work together on, Vance says. But we're also going to have very substantive disagreements with Israel, and that's okay. And we should be able to say we agree with Israel on that issue, and we disagree with Israel on this other issue. Having that conversation is, I think, much less comfortable for a lot of people because they want to focus on Nick Fuentes. End quote. This is, I know for some people, there's nothing is ever going to be good enough apart from, the vice president, walking out to Erica or something like that. But you got to have if you're going to comment on this and be engaged in this on a regular basis, you're only going to do yourself a favor if you have the political sophistication to recognize the game that he's playing here. Clearly, these are not two equal sides. And him throwing his lot in with one or the other is not the exact same thing. Him choosing not to throw in his lot on either side is very clearly much more favorable to one side than it is to the other. And this is exactly the position that a presidential candidate, needs to have. A lot of this stuff can be hashed out below his level. His level is to be the president for all Americans. And he's like, oh yeah, I denounce all that anti-Semitism stuff, but now that you mention that, we should have a conversation about Israel. You see the move? This isn't neutering or backing down or moderating. This is advancing it forward. Advancing it forward. Fuentes thus refracts, and with his noxious rhetoric distorts, a legitimate discontent. Says Vance, quote, 99% of Republicans, and I think probably 97% of Democrats, do not hate Jewish people for being Jewish. What is actually happening, what that means is 1% of Republicans and 3% of Democrats do hate Jewish people for being Jewish. What is actually happening is that there is a real backlash to a consensus view in American foreign policy. I think we ought to have that conversation and not try to shut it down. Most Americans are not anti-Semitic. They're never going to be anti-Semitic. And I think we should focus on the real debate. So true. What about Fuentes' promotion of an overt white racial politics, complete with liberal use of the N-word? Hold on. Where is it?
The N-word!
Is Vance worried by that stuff? Yes, but he believes that there have been far worse offenders who got away with racial politics in recent years, because their version of it was aligned with elite prerogatives and progressive moral hierarchies. You know what they say about political statements? That everything before the but doesn't matter? So, is Vance worried about Fuentes' promotion of an overt white racial politics complete with liberal use of the N-word? Yes, but. Okay, so he believes, so ignore the yes and just read. He believes there have been far worse offenders who got away with racial politics in recent years because their version of it was aligned with elite prerogatives and progressive moral hierarchies. Quote, let's say you believe, as I do, that racism is bad, that we should judge people according to their deeds and not their ethnicity, he later adds. Is Nick Fuentes really the problem in this country? He's a podcaster. He has a dedicated group of young fans, and some of them have been shitty to my friends and family. Not least Mrs. Vance. That's not a quote. Quote, does that annoy me? Of course. But let's keep some perspective. For the past 5 to 10 years, I've watched one half of our political leadership go all in on the idea that discriminating against whites in college admissions and jobs is not just okay, but affirmatively good. Again, do you see the game he's playing here? Nick Fuentes has personally insulted his wife and his children in some of the most, egregious ways. He has personally, directly insulted them. And he's like, sure, yeah, whatever, that's annoying. However, let me sidestep that and get back to the point, which is that actually he's kind of got a point about the whites being discriminated against thing. He goes on, quote, if you believe racism is bad, Fuentes should occupy 1 second of your focus, and the people with actual political power who worked so hard to discriminate against white men should occupy many hours of it. This is just about a tacit declaration of approval for Nick Fuentes from the next president. In political speak, this is basically what it is. Then two, this is back to the author. Then two, right-wing racialism is in large part a reaction against bipartisan elites who for decades maintained a porous border with the flow of newcomers surging to a flood under the Biden administration. Quote, that necessarily leads to the destruction of social cohesion in the country that I love, he says. Ethnic rivalry and balkanization is the inevitable consequence of these things. You don't have to think it's a good thing. I certainly don't, but it's a predictable consequence. This is what it looks like when you have the rowdy, transgressive right-winger and the decent, acceptable in normal society right-winger running a pincer operation. This is coordinated messaging while maintaining a presumption of like separation between the two. No, we hate each other. See, we cuss each other out and we insult each other and we make fun of each other and we call each other bad and irrelevant and whatever else. But at the end of the day, we've got basically the same message. Nick has the radical version of the message that JD is tacitly supporting. And then JD has the moderate, centrist, reasonable message. But wouldn't Vance's own children, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabelle, be treated with contempt in the Groyper's ideal America? The difference for Vance is once more about possession of actual power to effectuate policy. Quote, if you look at my kids, half white, half South Asian, they were among the most discriminated against in the entire elite college and jobs hierarchy under Joe Biden. And the left explicitly promises to bring that hierarchy back if they ever again get in power. Power. My vice president understands power. And he understands that at the end of the day, he and Nick are on the same side. There's like Stephen Miller level commitment to the message. Calling out some of his likely opponents in the 2028 contest, he adds, quote, it pisses me off that Fuentes calls my kids Jeet, and I appreciate that Ro Khanna would never do that. You know what pisses me off a million times more? That Ro Khanna, AOC, and Chris Murphy would deny them jobs and opportunities because they have the wrong skin color. Khanna, the Indian-American California lawmaker, has said he'd be fine with his kids being disadvantaged by race-based affirmative action. Of course he would be. Once again, yeah, it pisses me off when Fuentes calls my kids Jeets. And this is like damning with faint praise to Ro Khanna. Yeah, I appreciate he wouldn't do that. But it pisses me off a million times more that that Ro Khanna and AOC and Chris Murphy would actually deny them opportunities and jobs. Yeah, Slutty Milk. Yeah, Fuentes is annoying, but who cares? Look at these actual problems for each one. And this is very good. I'm sure Nick is going to continue his thing, and I don't know if he gets this or not. But this is very, very good for the prospects of Nick Fuentes. All of this raises a deeper question. Who counts as a true American? For many on the hard right, the fashionable answer is heritage Americans. That category excludes anyone who arrived after the initial wave of Anglo settlement, sometimes defined as narrowly as the Mayflower and its descendants. This treats as lesser citizens not just recent arrivals from Asia, Africa, and Latin America, but also Ellis Islanders like Italians and Jews, possibly even the Scotch-Irish. What does Vance make of heritage Americanism? He worries it poses more questions than it answers. Quote, is a heritage American somebody who's from the late 17th century or the late 18th century, the vice president asks. He tries to strike a balance between creedal nationalism, Americans are people who believe in American ideals like liberty and equal justice, and thicker notions of belonging, emphasizing shared language, culture, and history. Both, he says, have something to them. Look at my moderate centrist vice president. Recognizing that he's going to have to work the same magic as Donald Trump in uniting Groypers and Zionists. The heritage Americanists, he argues, grant too little to the creedal aspect. Quote, we take ourselves to be on a very unique national project, he says, a project that is very unusual compared to what the European nations were doing at the time, to what other nations in the world were doing at the time. We believe in the fundamental dignity and equality of every human being. End quote. Puritanical nationalists, meanwhile, forget that people are more than their abstract commitments. Quote, do I think that somebody who came to the United States 15 minutes ago has the same understanding of American culture and American identity as somebody whose family has been here for 10 generations? No, of course I don't believe that, because human beings are complex, and part of knowing a culture isn't just believing certain things, but actually living in a culture, absorbing it. End quote. Contra the heritage Americanists, Vance believes that culture and identity are transmissible over time. Quote, the racial nationalists, or anybody else who wants to say that it's purely genetic or purely having some connection to the late 17th century Mayflower descendants, what they ignore is that people can accumulate it over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but the idea that we have to be a static nation of people who came or who are descendants of those who came on the Mayflower, I think that's not consistent with American practice either. I just gotta say, like, having a vice president who can even think in these terms, who can speak in these terms, is remarkable. We have a vice president who's explicitly addressing questions of racial nationalism. Nematode!
It's a white pill Christmas. Praying gesture emoji.
So true, Nematode! Thank you for the praying gesture emoji. And for the $10. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're having a very happy Christmas Eve. Yeah, Slutty Milk. We got our vice president sounding like the great Orrin McIntyre here. You know, I'm not a Mayflower descendant. I don't know the timeline on my mom's side as well as my dad's side. On my dad's side, it's primarily Swedish and Norwegian, and they came over in the late 1800s. And then on my mom's side, it's primarily English and French. And I think that they came over in the early 1800s, but I don't have it completely clear. So I'm kind of like a second wave American. I don't go back to the Mayflower. But if you're going to, like, you can only, are we going to still have this conversation in 100 years? Because, like, in 100 years, there's going to be people here whose families have been here for 200 years who came over on Ellis Island. Their families have been here for 200 years, for, like, I don't know, what is that going to be, like 6 or 8 generations? So, like, this is a moving target that keeps going. Once upon a time, my ancestors, who, 200 years ago or something, 175 years ago, were relatively new. They were the new ones who just showed up and needed time to merge with the American ethnos. But after, like, once you get to, like, 3, 4, 5 generations, then you're talking about, like, these are people who don't have any association with anywhere else. I asked him if he'd countenance differing legal treatment for the Mayflower descendant versus the person who received his passport 15 minutes ago. No, he replies. Whether you got your citizenship an hour ago, or you got your citizenship or your family got citizenship 10 generations ago, we have to treat all Americans equal. But, again, you have the political statement followed by but. What does he say next? I also think we have to accept that if you overwhelm the country with too many new entrants, even if they believe the right things, even if they're fundamentally good people, you do change the country in some profound way. The problem with American immigration over the 4 years of the Biden administration was that we let in too many people too quickly. And the numbers were much smaller, and we had tried to select for people who are much better at assimilating into American culture. I don't think that everybody would be looking around and saying, what the hell is going on? So, yes, absolutely. If you got your passport 15 minutes ago, or if your family's been here since the Mayflower, you should have the same legal status. But we need to now move the focus on who gets passports. We need to be much more judicious about deciding who gets passports. For a much longer span, of course, it was religion that defined Western identity, with Christendom encompassing a patchwork of nations otherwise at each other's throats. Can faith still serve as a sort of moral glue today in societies that are fast descending into what used to be called the Blade Runner scenario, after director Ridley Scott's 1982 sci-fi dystopia that portrays 21st century Los Angeles as a city divided among polyglot ethnic formations arrayed tensely against each other? Quote, "When I talk about America having some common culture," Vance says, "I think Christianity is very much at the heart of that. With the exception of Jefferson and a couple of others, most of our founding fathers were devout Christians. There's a lot about Christianity that is very useful, even if you're not a Christian. I think Christianity gives us a common moral language. You saw that in the Civil Rights era. You saw that during the Civil War. It was one of the ways that we were able to actually come together as a nation post-Civil War, that shared Christian identity." End quote. And yet, religion often clashes with contemporary politics. Vance's own spiritual leader is a Roman Catholic, Pope Leo XIV, takes a much more universalist approach to questions of immigration and assimilation, and has reportedly deputized the U.S. bishops to counter the Trump administration's hawkish border policies. How does Vance reconcile his religious leader with his political positions? Interestingly, I'll just say here that in Peter Thiel's recent lecture series on the Antichrist, he's asked about Vance and like things that he's concerned about with Vance, and he said one thing that he has told JD that he is concerned about is that JD is too deferential to the Pope, which is interesting. While he welcomes the Vatican's voice in international affairs, he thinks of its councils as one moral lens that must be applied alongside other perspectives. The Bishop of Rome, quote, "is not going to be looking at an immigration policy with the same prudential lens that I have on." I mean, just having a vice president who uses the term prudential is like, we've come so far. The, quote, "dignity of would-be migrants is part of it. So are, quote, "the wages of workers" and, quote, "the social cohesion of the United States of America." So JD is like the Bishop of Rome is looking at the immigration policy from the perspective of the immigrants. But me, as the vice president, I have to prudentially consider not just the dignity of the migrants, but also the wages of the workers and the social cohesion of the United States of America. Those are responsibilities that have been entrusted to me. And so, when I am weighing the wages of American workers and the social cohesion of the United States of America against the dignity of would-be migrants, the dignity of the would-be migrants may have to take a hit. Balkanization and ethnic hatred, reflected in the rise of the likes of Fuentes and company, are thus mostly symptoms to Vance's mind. Moralizing denunciation, in his telling, will do little to address the underlying disease. Critics will no doubt see his reluctance to draw brighter red lines as a political strategy, taking care of his right flank ahead of a 2028 presidential campaign. He is certainly careful about whom to denounce and on which grounds. Still, I walk away from J.D. Vance's home concluding that the position he espouses, the need to renegotiate questions of immigration and belonging to avoid a descent into even worse ethnic strife, is a sincerely held expression of his worldview. Whether it can be translated into a responsible politics will be the big test of the next few years. Yeah, one might call him a prudentialist. Indeed, Slutty Milk. Now, before we get to his speech, I couldn't not include this. Vice President posts pictures of himself training with U.S. Navy SEALs at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. You think Kamala Harris would have been out there doing log carries? Jogging on the beach? Here's our vice president. We need to normalize this. If you're going to run for president, you need to go train with the SEALs for a little bit first. So Lee, one of our greatest posters, says the vice president is doing log PT. Never black pill. You can say all you want about how this is just like pandering and campaigning, and yeah, it is. And it's very, very good. This is very, very good pandering and campaigning. So is this. This is one of those where you're going to have to look at the picture. If you're not watching, you're going to have to watch. Because JD Vance quote tweeted Lee and said, "Fixed it," and posted one of his own rare Vances. Oh. Our guy. Yeah, Trust Plan Star, if you're going to pander, might as well carry a heavy log. That's right. My vice president has the heaviest logs. He carries a heavy log with him everywhere he goes. No one's got a heavy log quite like my vice president. Here he is. So here is his appearance, his speech at the TPUSA event. Quite a few interesting stories came out of that. Apparently, Nicki Minaj is now our latest influencer. She's making life easy on Taylor Swift. All right, Taylor, it's easy for you now. Nicki Minaj already did it. My president hates Taylor Swift, so I'm obligated to do the same. Slutty Milk says, oh yes, his best speech. I heard that from many, so I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to react to this in real time for the first time with you guys here now. Mr. Sue says, Vance extending an olive branch to Nick is akin to us voting for a Republican Congress. It makes them lose power because they don't have anything to fight for. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point. All right, here we go. I put it on 1 1/4 because it is a 30-minute speech.
How's it going, Phoenix? It's so good to be here with you all on this amazing day to close out an amazing AmFest 2025. What an amazing crowd all of you are, and I have to admit, today solves one of the great insecurities that I had. Because as I've watched Nicki Minaj come out and declare her support for the truth, for courage, and for wisdom, I've had this little nagging voice in the back of my head wondering whether she thinks I look like the J.D. Vance meme. And it turns out, and I confirmed when she walked down the steps, Nicki Minaj actually knows what I really look like, and that is the best tribute that I could possibly imagine. I have to start off with a note of gratitude. Erica, I cannot thank you enough for your strength, your grace, and your kind words of support for this administration and for me personally. You lead an incredible movement at Turning Point, and I will fight alongside you and President Trump and every patriot in this room to defend the country that we so dearly love.
Patriots mentioned. I'm activated, Mr. Vice President.
And when I say that I'm going to fight alongside of you, I mean all of you, each and every one. President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. He says, make America great again because every American is invited. We don't care if you're white or black, rich or poor, young or old, rural or urban, controversial or a little bit boring, or somewhere in between. People of every faith come to our banner because they know that the America First movement will make their lives better, and they also know that the Democrats don't care about anything other than maybe transing their kids.
If you're controversial, that's fine. We can have all those debates. No worries. We've got a free open space to have those debates. If you're controversial, you're welcome to be. We ask one thing: loyalty.
So if you love America, if you want all of us to be richer, stronger, safer, and prouder, you have a home on this team. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform. And I don't really care if some people out there, I'm sure we'll have the fake news media, denounce me after this speech. But let me just say, the best way to honor Charlie...
The way to hear... he says this like, I'm not here to cancel anybody. And you could take that as, oh, he's not going to fight back against Ben Shapiro. But that's a direct shot across the bow at Ben Shapiro.
...is that none of us here should be doing something after Charlie's death that he himself refused to do in life. He invited all of us here.
So true.
Charlie invited all of us here for a reason, because he believed that each of us, all of us, had something worth saying, and he trusted all of you to make your own judgment. And we have far more important work to do than canceling each other. We have got to build, and President Donald Trump is a builder.
We must build battleships.
We're building a better country right now, and you have a rightful place in the success of your nation and the success of this movement. And we build by adding, by growing, not by tearing down. Charlie Kirk was a great builder too. He understood that any family can have its disagreements, its tough conversations. We can learn and improve and treat one another better. We can love each other despite the disagreement. But winning demands teamwork. And I am honored to be on Turning Point's team. I'm honored to be on your team, and I will stay that way.
Mr. Seuss says, in quotes, mockingly, Vance is just saying this because he's scared of Groyper influence and needs the votes if he wants to be president. And you know, sure. Yeah, I'll accept the premise. That's right. That's why he's doing that. You know what that means? That means that he cares more about maintaining the coalition, getting the votes to continue the agenda, than he does about policing racisms and anti-Semitisms. That's what that means. That's a win. That's a good thing.
There's still so much important work to do, my friends. We're barely a year into this administration, not even a year into the administration. But I'm so proud of the accomplishments of the president and the entire administration. In just a year, we ended Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's border crisis. December marks 7 months straight of zero releases at the southern border.
We just needed a new president.
More than 2.5 million illegal immigrants have left the United States, the first time in over 50 years that we have had negative net migration, and it's just the start. When you restore...
I don't see anybody, by the way, who's challenging this notion. I see a lot of people who ignore that fact. They ignore that we've got net negative migration for the first time in like half a century. That we're, relatively speaking, deporting and removing more foreigners from the country now than during the hailed Operation Wetback under Eisenhower. That never even went net negative. We were still net positive migration to the country during Operation Wetback. I don't see anybody challenging that. Oh yeah, sure. They haven't let any, there's been zero releases at the southern border for the last 7 months. Net negative migration over the year. Domestic wages climbing. Foreign job holders massively decreasing. Rents falling, yes. All of this. Nobody denies that's true. They just ignore it. I would have more respect for them if they were going out and trying to disprove the numbers. But they just ignore it. Slutty Milk says, niggas get so focused on who is paid off by who that they forget that politicians are literally supposed to earn your vote. Like that is inherently how this system of government works. Yes. Yeah, if you're a fucking Groyper who doesn't like JD Vance, he's like, cool, you don't like me. You call my wife and children subhuman. But I will still try to earn your vote. I will still fight for your right to say whatever you want. I will direct the operations of government away from you. Give you room to repeatedly insult me. All you got to do is just vote for me. Vote for me and you're free to say whatever you want about me and my family. You know why? Because that's how the fucking system works. You want to solve all of these problems? It runs through this man. I'm perfectly happy to consider another alternative. Give me one. Give me somebody else who has the potential of building on Trump's accomplishments thus far and accomplishing more, doing all the things he's not doing. Give me that candidate. Where is he? And electoral considerations have to be a factor here. The dude has to actually be electable. Because electability matters. So it can't be some dickwad you randomly pull out at the last second. Oh, here, this guy who we've never heard of before, and we're just going to run him on the libertarian ticket or something. There is going to be a presidential election in 2028. And whomever wins that election will have significant to put it as lightly as possible, will have significant downstream effects on the direction of the country. And there's going to be a limited pool of candidates to draw from. There's going to be 3. So I'm more than happy for you to present someone who's even better than JD. Sure. Show me. Who is it? Who's that other candidate? Nick Fuentes isn't going to run for president. He's not going to get elected. I like Nick Fuentes. He's not going to get elected president. Tucker? I don't think Tucker would get elected president. Kanye West? Yeah, right. Sure. Perry Abbasi. There we go. Now we're talking. If Perry Abbasi runs for president, I'm sorry, JD. Alpha male's got to stick together.
Or sanity at the border, it shows up everywhere else. Rent prices are dropping 4 months in a row, and more native-born Americans are working than ever before. Kamala Harris opened the border and destroyed the economy. The Trump administration gave you net negative migration and much more job creation.
Holy shit, there's a line.
Gave you net open the border, born Americans are working than ever before. Kamala Harris opened the border and destroyed the economy. The Trump administration gave you net negative migration and much more job creation. Real wages are finally growing. Inflation is half of what it was under Democrats. Gas prices are their lowest in years. And we have finally made it clear that in the United States, we believe in hard work and merit. Unlike the left, we stand against treating anybody, and I love what Nikki said about this. We don't treat anybody different because of their race or their sex. So we have relegated DEI to the dustbin of history, which is exactly where it belongs. In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying to college, because
the white man is back
based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control. We don't persecute you for being male, for being straight, for being gay, for being anything. The only thing that we demand is that you be a great American patriot, and if you're that, you're very much on our team.
Yes! You gotta keep the aristofag around.
Just consider the contrast. Kamala Harris used the government to censor you. We're using in the Trump administration the government to protect your free speech, whether it's on college campuses or in the digital marketplace of ideas. Today, our military is welcoming patriots instead of firing them for refusing to accept an unlawful vaccine mandate.
People just casually using patriots like this is a new thing. People didn't talk this way for the last couple of decades. This is directly downstream of people beginning to use patriot in memes. We memed this into reality. And the vice president is now calling you to be a patriot. All patriots, go, go, go!
And to honor Charlie, but also to honor all of you, we're working to end the scourge of left-wing violence in the United States of America. going after the far left crime networks, but we're also going after the monsters that fund them. We don't just want to go after the Antifa member who threw a brick at an ICE agent. We want to know who bought the brick, and we're going to prosecute them too. We're making America healthy again with our great HHS Secretary Bobby Kennedy.
Yes! Regarding the prosecuting the people who bought the brick.
We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead.
We're bringing drug prices down and purging our food supply of the poison that had built up over a generation.
No more poisonous food!
But my friends, there is so much more to be done. And the people saying we need to be doing more, we need to be doing it faster, trust me, I hear you. Greatness awaits every single one of you in the America First movement we are building together, but we need your help to get there.
Ah! To every single, he's literally talking to you fucking black pillars. To every single one of you who thinks we need to do more, we need to go faster. I hear you. Greatness awaits every single one of you. We need your help. Get off the fucking sidelines. Get out of the fucking peanut gallery. Go do something productive. Get a fucking job.
Do you want more prosecutions? Great. So do we. Donald Trump and I have a list of better judges and prosecutors to enact swifter justice. So join us in the fight against the stupid Senate rules to stand in their way.
Go after the fucking Congress!
Do you want faster deportations? So go to ice.gov/join, because we're building an army of patriots and we need good people who care about the country to help us secure the border and do it even faster.
Join ICE! Get a fucking job!
Do you want rents to keep dropping and wages to keep rising as they have over the last few months? Then mobilize with us. Don't hand power back to the people who tanked the economy in the first place. Join the America First movement, and you will always have a place on our great team. Next month will be the official one-year anniversary of the Trump administration, and I am damn proud of our record so far.
Sorry, JD, I got bad news for you.
I've got bad news for you. You're Jewish.
Hate to break it to you, man.
Now, the Democrats are already talking about 2028, and it looks like they're going to nominate a California liberal who's presided over rolling blackouts, open borders, and unchecked violent gangs. They're just
faggot? Yeah, I just did. But would you faggot? Okay. No thanks,
in the meantime,
irrelevant pervert.
What are the Democrats offering you in the meantime? I got to say, ladies and gentlemen, they are not sending their best. Omar Fateh was Ilhan Omar's candidate for mayor of Mogadishu.
The N-word.
I mean Minneapolis.
He said Mogadishu!
Little Freudian slip there. The candidate for Senate in Maine for the Democrats calls me a Nazi, which is rich coming from a guy who literally has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Jasmine Crockett.
The Guinness Book of fucking retards.
The record speaks for itself. She wants to be a senator, though her street girl persona is about as real as her nails.
Oh my God!
But ask yourself, what do all of these people have in common? And the unfortunate answer is they are puppets. They don't actually matter. They are cogs in a machine that wants to make you poorer, that wants to make you less powerful, and wants to make you less safe.
Look, he's obviously dark.
Built. And while President Trump and I are doing everything we can to break that machine, the left is still there, my friends, and they are still very powerful. Don't delude yourselves. It's the activist groups who want to poison your kids with hormone replacement therapy and toxins in your water supply. It's the corporate boardrooms pushing diversity quotas while whining about the fact that Donald Trump won't let them ship American jobs overseas anymore. And
he's
boo-hoo
cooking!
to that. It's the rogue district judges who issued nationwide injunctions every time the president lifts a finger. It's the Soros DAs who cheered on as their cities burned. What unites them? They win when our country loses. They get rich when you get poor. They hire the illegals that they bring in to take your jobs. They drink fine wine in the countries they ship your jobs to. They censor you because they'd rather destroy the Constitution than risk losing an argument. They bring in millions of voters because they know they can't win the argument with the people who are already here. And you know what else unites them? We're going to kick their ass next November and every year after that.
Okay. I'm going to get dehydrated over here. Holy crap.
You want to fight? Better believe you've got one. You want to enslave my spirit? No! And I'll call on God to protect me and use me however God sees fit.
Listening to JD got me like this. Compare this speech, like he's using a teleprompter here. Compare this speech to his RNC acceptance speech. We watched that on here, and I was like, yeah, he's not comfortable in the teleprompter. Yeah, we needed an Erica for that. Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein. Und das heißt Erika. Hail victory!
Part of the American dream is the idea that we're all, every single one of us, on the same team. We're all part of the same American family. If you want to destroy that, do what Democrats have done, not just for the last 5 years, but for the last 30 or 40. Make one race the enemy of another. Make one gender the enemy of the other. Make Americans suspect and despise each other instead of loving their shared country. When I think about some of the most impassioned debates happening in our country, the nature of citizenship, of what it means to be an American, it all speaks to an obvious truth. Americans are hungry for identity. We're hungry for belonging. We're hungry for a sense of our place in the world. And it's no surprise why. For many years, our fellow Americans have been dealing with a globalized economy that homogenized cultures and hollowed out our towns. Academics and activists pushing race and gender politics down everyone's throat 24/7. Big tech overlords using their internet platforms to censor stories that challenge the dominant far-left narrative in our country. More than any time I can recount, people are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that is truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be, a Christian nation.
I'm getting things I could have only dreamed I was voting for. We went from Kamala Harris to this. American people are hungry for identity. And our most fundamental identity must be that we are a Christian nation. From the vice president.
Now, I want to be explicit because, of course, the fake news media will twist everything that I say. I'm not saying... Do you feel about them the same way I do?
Boo those niggers!
I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond. Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That greed, think about it, that greed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept. Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. And let me say, of all the wars that Donald Trump has ended, that is the one we're proudest of.
My president ends wars!
For decades, the left has labored to push Christianity out of national life. They've kicked it out of the schools, out of the workplace, out of the fundamental parts of the public square. Freedom of religion transformed into freedom from religion. And in a public square devoid of God, we got a vacuum. And the ideas that filled that void preyed on the very worst of human nature rather than uplifting it. They told us not that we were children of God, but children of this or that identity group. They replaced God's beautiful design for the family that men and women could rely on and turn to one another with the idea that men could turn into women so long as they brought the right bunch of pills from Big Pharma. They had all the religious fervor of a zealous convert without any of the grace or forgiveness of a true Christian. Scripture tells us, by your fruits ye shall know them.
He knows about the cage stage Calvinists. He knows about the recently converted ortho bros. I'm sure the tradcasts have their own variant of it. Ian Rose says, you have no idea the level of envy I have for you silly Yanks right now. And Emperor Atreides says, we will reform the Commonwealth. You gents will be in the family again. Praying for it. So true. Just hold on, brothers. We got to get our shit in order. We're well on our way. And then we're coming for you guys too.
And we might ask, what are the fruits of these people and their principles? And the answer is a man named Tyler Robinson who killed my friend.
Damn.
Think about it. He has everything that the far left want from our young men. He rejected the conservatism and the spirituality, the values of a small town family. He moved into a small apartment. He became addicted to porn. He became addicted to hate. And he ended up sleeping with somebody who doesn't know whether they're a man or a woman. That is the nightmare scenario, but that is the scenario that the left has actively advertised they want for American families. And the young men in the audience in particular. That is exactly why we have to fight them. Because the fruits of true Christianity are men like Charlie Kirk.
Yes! Oh! Our vice president is calling for true Christian men. Where are you guys? Let's go! Charlie's in the chat.
The fruits of true Christianity are good husbands, patient fathers, builders of great things, and slayers of dragons. And yes, men who are willing to die for a principle if that's what God asks them to do. Because so many of us recognize that it is better to die a patriot than live a coward.
It is better to die a patriot than live a coward. Patriots, mount up! Blackpilling is cowardice. Embody the spirit of Charlie.
I'm going to tell you something I haven't talked about publicly before, but in the days after Charlie's death, I struggled a great deal. I'm sure many of you did too. I remember watching every video of the assassination, looking for clues, trying to understand what happened. I'd try to hide my friend and that terrible bullet hitting him, but I would try to look around. I stayed up all night, for many nights in a row, researching every conspiracy theory, going down every rabbit hole. When my lovely wife, Usha, told me to come to bed, I told her I owed it to Charlie to try to uncover every stone, and so that's what I tried to do. I remember I was consumed by this fear That Charlie's death wouldn't just deprive a family of their husband or of a good father, but that it would deny our movement of a great unifier of people and a great doer of great deeds. It's the only time I can remember my wife ever telling me that she was really worried about me. She told me it many times. But what saved me was not lying to myself, but accepting the reality of the fight that we're in. Charlie's death was an immense loss, an irreplaceable loss. We got kicked in the teeth, my friends, and there's no sugarcoating it or pretending that it didn't happen. We need to accept that. And what saved me was realizing that the story of the Christian faith, like the story of these United States of America, is one of immense loss followed by even bigger victory. It's a story. It's a story of very dark nights followed by very bright dawns. What saved me was remembering the inherent goodness of God and that His grace overflows when we least expect it. Not long ago, I spent time at a Christian men's ministry just a couple of weeks ago. And here's what they do. They take men who struggle with addiction or homelessness and they help them get back on their feet. They feed them, they clothe them, they give them shelter and financial advice. They live out the very best part of Christ's commission. Now afterwards, I had lunch with 4 of these men. It was a couple of white guys, a Hispanic guy, and a black man. They had all struggled in their unique ways. Some had lost contact with their family, some of them for a very long time. Others were desperate to rebuild relationships with their kids so that they could see them on Christmas. But all of them were back on their feet. And what saved them? It wasn't racial commonality or grievance. It wasn't some philosophical jargon. It wasn't a DEI prep course, and it wasn't a welfare check. It was the fact that a carpenter died 2,000 years ago and changed the world in the process. If you go to almost any food pantry in this country, you will find Christians feeding the poor. If you go to addicts whose families won't even speak to them, like my mom was at a certain point of her life, it's often the Christian ministries that stay with them at their very lowest moments. You'll find Christians sitting patiently beside hospice beds and in recovery rooms and in all the places of the world where people have given up on other people.
That's called ministry.
And this is the moral truth we strive to center in our work in the Trump administration and in this great movement of ours. A true Christian politics, it cannot just be about the protection of the unborn or the promotion of the family, as important as those things absolutely are. It must be at the heart of our full understanding of government. Why do we penalize corporations that ship American jobs overseas? Because we believe in the inherent dignity of human work and every person who works a good job in this country.
Work shall set you free.
Why have we worked, without the help of Congress, to restrict H-1B visas, for example? Because we believe it is wrong for companies to bypass American labor just to go for cheaper options in the third world.
Yes. Congress.
We help older Americans in retirement, including by ending taxes on Social Security, because we believe in honoring your father and mother rather than shipping all of their money off to Ukraine.
Imagine policy proposals being pursued and defended on the basis of Christian character.
We believe in taking care of the poor, which is why we have Medicaid, so that the least among us can afford their prescriptions or to take their kids to see a doctor. And it's why we are outraged at the injustice of Tim Walz allowing Somalian immigrants to defraud that program to the tune of billions of dollars. It ought to go to Americans, because that's who it's there for.
Yes! Need to arrest that
I want to
faggot.
close, my friends, but I have heard you. I know that some of you are impatient at the pace of progress, and my response to that is good. Be impatient. Use that desire for justice for your country as fuel to get involved in this movement in a bigger and better and more powerful way.
You
I know
hear
some
that,
of
you
you are
fucking
discouraged
doomers?
by the infighting over any number of issues. Don't be discouraged. Wouldn't you rather lead a movement of free thinkers who sometimes disagree than a bunch of drones who take their orders from George Soros?
Yeah, Uncle Doomer's a patriot. We'll keep him around.
And I know many of you miss our dear friend Charlie Kirk. So do I. I miss his optimism. I miss his energy. I miss the phone calls where we strategize about how to get this or that GOP congressman to get off their ass and do something. But most...
What's that? GOP congressmen are a pain in the ass? They're in the way? They're blocking things? How many times has he mentioned Congress and their obstructionism in this speech?
Most of all, I miss Charlie's wisdom. I miss his reminder that politics is not a dress rehearsal or a game. We are making decisions that will save our country and give the American people a shot at their dreams again. If you miss Charlie Kirk, do you promise to fight what he died for? Do you promise to take the country back from the people who took his life? Do you promise to help defeat the radicals who cheered his death?
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice President, sir!
Do you promise to honor his memory by having faith in the God he loved? My friends, commit to these things, and I promise you victory. I promise you closed borders and safe communities. I promise you good jobs and a dignified life. Only God can promise you salvation in heaven, but together we can fulfill the promise of the greatest nation in the history of the earth. Merry Christmas, my friends. Let's keep fighting.
Infinity with Creed! I'm champion! Okay, now it sounds weird that it's fast. Oh! Holy crap on a cracker, man. That was the right time for the 9 milligram nicotine pouch. Oh. Ian Rhodes says the blood is drained from my head. No kidding. What a speech. If he keeps on this track, man, holy balls. Let me get some Vance balls in the chat. That was incredible. Thank you guys for ensuring that I watched that and that I played it on here. Now, I had one more video that it's getting late now, so I've still got some things with the stream that I need to troubleshoot, so I'm going to hold this off until tomorrow. But I want to make sure that I get this. I'll mention it again tomorrow. But there's a particular reference made in this video here from Promethean In Depth. This is my first Promethean In Depth video that I've watched. This is the Strategic Overview Counter-Revolution in America's Youth from Mike Stager. He delves into the ongoing cultural revolution targeting America's youth since 1945, interesting date, and presents a counter-revolution spearheaded by key figures like Tucker Carlson and J.D. Vance. He discusses the historical backdrop of conformity and paranoia, the hedonism of the 1960s, and the subsequent disillusionment of later generations. Highlighting President Trump's contributions and recent advancements in science and technology, he calls for a revival of American identity based on Christian principles and a commitment to the nation's future. This episode provides a comprehensive review of political, cultural, and technological efforts to restore America's core values and ensure its prosperity. It is a very, very good monologue. It's about 36 minutes long, so I'm going to hold this off until tomorrow. But I want to try to connect these two. Just played the J.D. Vance speech, did the J.D. Vance article just before that, and he makes a reference toward the end of this video that I want to put this in your heads now, and we'll come back to it tomorrow. But the real ones will get the reference, and it's very interesting to me that he makes the reference that he does. There's a nice big tease for you guys. Yeah, we'll get into that tomorrow. I got a bunch of other stuff for tomorrow. I got the show almost all put together already for tomorrow, so it'll be a very good one. And here, let me make sure I get this tab. I've got an insane number of tabs open right now. More stream troubleshooting stuff I've got to do. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up for this episode of the ASTROLABE. Wish you guys all a very Merry Christmas. Hopefully you're having a blessed Christmas Eve. I'll be back tomorrow. There will be a stream tomorrow. We will do a Christmas Eve stream. There will not be a Labe on Thursday for Christmas Day. I will be in the King Pill Discord in the evening for voice chat. So for anyone who wants to join us for that, you can go join the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com. We'll discuss who knows what. We always end up having very interesting conversations, and they usually go for several hours. So kingpill.com, go join up there. And thank you guys for your incredibly generous tips tonight. It was phenomenal. You guys made Christmas very, very good for the Erickson family. We appreciate you. Almost to the goal. Looks like we might actually hit the goal this month. So we still got a few more streams to go this month. If you would like to contribute, I've now got it set up. So just go to tips.kingpill.com. It won't take you to the Streamlabs link anymore. It's going to take you to the Ko-fi page where you can tip now using Cash App, Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, credit card, debit card, any of those. And I will be able to play the tips. No matter how they come in, they will all contribute to the tip goal, and I will be able to play them, give you credit for them. And remember, there's a fun little one for any tips over $200. We got a new fun little one. We got a couple of those tonight. So you guys can hit the tips link anytime. Tips.kingpill.com. One single spot. Don't have to remember anything else. Just tips.kingpill.com. And a pro tip, tip.kingpill.com will take you to the same place. So tips.kingpill.com. Thank you for supporting the show. Make sure that you follow the Substack. Follow me on Twitter at Kingpilled. This one was streamed to Rumble and to X. I need to figure out how to get the chat thing fixed with that. But you can go follow the Astrolabe on Rumble now. The channel is Kingpilled. Just go follow over there. I'll start streaming over there more regularly. You can also follow or subscribe on Kick. I'll always be on Kick. That's the baseline platform. But I'm trying to get Entropy set up as well, but I got to figure out how to work that in to everything. So for now, Rumble, Kick, X. I will post the recordings on YouTube and on Substack. Those are all the different ways you can follow. Appreciate all the support. Hope to see some new people tomorrow in the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Come join us. And for the rest of you who are already in there, looking forward to chatting with you guys tomorrow evening. Hopefully you have a very Merry Christmas Eve. And make sure you download the EWBSX app. We got some very special Christmas programming that the Cyberbully and Daryl have worked overtime to produce for us. So if you want some 24/7 radio for our guys, download the EWBSX app, Eternal White Boy Summer Radio, 24/7 radio for our guys, available on Apple, on the iPhone and Android. It is free to download. Go pipe those white pills into your ears, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe. For now, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough!